All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
And with freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to the Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I am your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Spoken Studios with my guys, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
And Eddie Ortiz.
Yo, yo, yo.
Episode 167 in full swing, full motion. We are so happy with you guys on this hot-ass Saturday in Kansas City, man. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to get to. As you can imagine, if you've been following our work for any length of time, we have a lot of Chiefs content to get to, whether you're live streaming, whether you're podcasting, or whether you're YouTubing with us. We want to thank you so much for being here with us this week. 167 episodes, man. We are flying through this crazy little thing that we started here, man. We've seen a lot of growth in our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube pages. And speaking of YouTube, man, we would love for you guys to hit us up on our YouTube channel. We pretty much link it up everywhere anything we post when it comes to our weekly content that we put here on the podcast side of things. So if you have not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, guys. We're trying to grow this thing as best as we can. Try to monetize some things here because, like I said, we've been putting in some work for the last 3 years now, and we're trying to grow this thing, trying to grow the brand with some merch, with some other opportunities that we have on the horizon. And obviously, like as we always say, that we need your guys' help. That's how we make this thing happen in the beginning. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't do this. It wouldn't be any fun. I know Eddie would want to do it because he's the one that actually came up with the idea, but I don't think Eddie would want to do it by himself. He would get lonely without us two wettos over here, the Twidwell clan. So, no, but nevertheless, man, we're so happy to be with you guys today, and we're so happy for you guys to be with us. We have a great guest today, a guy that you, I know, are very familiar with, Mr. Shaggy Shane Williams from the Shaggy Shane Show. He will be joining us momentarily to discuss his thoughts on the draft, because if you guys remember, we actually had him on the show the week before the draft. And then we obviously have the new schedule that just came out with the Chiefs. 22's official NFL schedules are now released. We now know when and how the teams are playing, what primetime games. Obviously, there's going to be things that flex, that are in flux, but nevertheless, we know the primary schedule for each and every NFL team, in particular the Kansas City Chiefs, and we're going to talk about that a lot today. Speaking of that, that's actually where I want to start, because there was, I don't want to say a great amount of panic amongst Chiefs fans that I was seeing on Twitter and on Facebook yesterday. I don't believe that was the case. I don't think that was the word that I would use to describe what I saw. But I do believe that there is this universal thought right now in the atmosphere about the Chiefs' schedule and how this is something that the Chiefs have yet to ever face when it comes to a great and insurmountable, if you will, schedule. And this is May. This is something that I think is something we overreact on each and every year, no matter if it's for the optimistic side or the pessimistic side or the indifferent side. We look at this in May and we think, oh, okay, I know for sure what's going to happen. But as we always know, man, when training camp and OTAs and all these things start to come about, we see teams have unforeseen and unfortunate injuries. We see players get cut and another team adds them, and they either spark the team or they bring the team down or they don't do anything for the team. There's still so much that has to happen before the season even begins for us to really understand what's going to happen, or at least predict it. That's why what we do here at The Spoken, it's a golden rule around here. We don't make predictions until September, until that week one is on the horizon, and we know that this is what the team is, this is what the rest of the league looks like, this is who and what they are going into the regular season. So we are not going to make predictions today. I've been very tempted. I even put it on my Twitter account this week. I will not make predictions. I did it like the Bart Simpson when he's writing on the school board with the chalkboard. I will not make predictions. I will, because I was tempted. I won't lie. I was very, very tempted to do so. Maybe because of more than some, I am extremely optimistic about this team moving into this season. And honestly with you guys, I'll be real, I don't think the schedule changed that whatsoever. In fact, I think it reignited it, or it infused it even more so for me. And I'm going to explain why. When I saw the schedule, I noticed that the Chiefs currently have 8 teams in the first 8 weeks that had winning records from last season. And that's actually something that has never happened in NFL history. So automatically you know that the Chiefs have an uphill battle. Not to mention the fact they're going to have anywhere from 8 to 15 new starters probably on this team as a whole. And that's a challenge for any team. No matter what experience level you have, no matter what coaching staff you have, no matter what your quarterback situation is, that's going to be a challenge just up front. Is it a challenge that's going to take some teams down or make another team better for it? That's yet to be determined. But I'm going to tell you guys why I am overly optimistic about this Chiefs team, regardless of these facts. So, like I said, they have their first 8 games against teams that had winning records last year. Not only that, the Chiefs will face 9 teams total that made the playoffs last season. That's also absurd. Most times, the Chiefs face around 5 to 6 teams that made the playoffs the year before. This time, it's 9. But I'm going to tell you guys something, man. There's some facts out there that we need to accept when it comes to this team and why we need to feel very comfortable about this team moving forward into this tough schedule that at least looks tough at this point. Since 2017, week 17 of 2017, when Patrick Mahomes made his first start, the Chiefs are 20-11 versus teams with a 500 or better record. Since 2018, the Chiefs have faced 23 teams that made the playoffs, and the Chiefs are 15-8 against those teams. And then people talk about the Tyreek Hill absence. You know, not having that security blanket, not having that for Patrick Mahomes to go to on those big third and longs. And we have talked about that on the show. Last season in particular, there were several instances where the Chiefs' offense was in a jam, or they needed to make a big play to seal the victory on a third down, on a fourth down. And who'd they go to? Tyreek Hill. So the Chiefs are going to have to figure out a way to overcome that. But see, I know I've posted this stat before, and I know I've spoken to many of you guys about this before when it comes to the absence of Tyreek and what Patrick Mahomes can, will, and is without Tyreek Hill. And as you guys know, but maybe some of you don't, without Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes' career, the Chiefs are 4-1. And Patrick Mahomes in those games averages 374 passing yards with 8 touchdowns, only 1 interception, while completing over 64% of his passes with a 103 quarterback rating. Almost every single one of those numbers are either higher or just at Patrick Mahomes' career averages. And that's without Tyreek Hill. Now, it's only a 5-game sample size.
Yeah.
So that's not a lot to take away from.
It's not small, though, either.
It's not small, either.
Yeah.
Yes, I 100% agree. The Chiefs' strength of schedule by each year since 2018. In 2018, it was 19th overall. In 2019, it was 6th overall. 2020 was 18th overall. And then last season in 2021, it was 11th overall. In that span, the Chiefs having a top 20 schedule each of the last 4 seasons and 2 in the top 11, they went 50-15 in the regular season with 4 consecutive AFC Championship home games and 2 Super Bowl appearances in that span. Tough schedules are nothing new to this team. Sure, the division's not been great. You know, they haven't had world beaters in their division on a normal basis. But even the first season of Patrick Mahomes as a starter, he had a 12-win Chargers team in this division. He's had really good defenses in the Broncos and the Chargers. Like I said, very talented rosters that were just missing a piece here and there. And in comparison to the great guys like Tom Brady, I think even with the fact there weren't world beaters in this division over the last 4 years, Patrick Mahomes has faced much greater competition in his division than Tom Brady ever did in the 19 years he spent in New England in the AFC least. And in the Andy Reid era, especially in the Patrick Mahomes era when he took over in 2018, the Chiefs have been a team that has or exceeded preseason expectations. And I'm going to tell you why. In May of 2018, OddsShark had the Chiefs win total over-under set at 7.5 games. They won 12 games that year and were an AFC Championship overtime loss away from the Super Bowl. May of 2019, OddsShark had the Chiefs win total over-under set at 10.5. They won 12 games and won the Super Bowl that year. May of 2020, OddsShark had the Chiefs win total over-under at 11.5. They won 14 games that year and made their second consecutive Super Bowl appearance. It wasn't until last September in 2021 that OddsShark nailed the win total over-under for the Chiefs with 12, and the Chiefs did not fail to reach that mark. And were an AFC Championship overtime loss from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Chiefs continue to exceed expectations. So it's difficult for me to think that they won't continue this trend, especially when I believe that right now, as currently constructed, they're a better team than they were a month ago, and I believe that they'll be a better team a month from now than they are right now. This team is built on the backs of those that folks either gave up on or never expected to be who and what they are. Think about it. Andy Reid was fired by the Eagles after one bad season. Patrick Mahomes was considered a reckless project coming into the 2017 draft. Travis Kelce was a third-round tight end that was once a quarterback and was known as Jason Kelce's brother. Matt Nagy was fired by the Bears even though he had a winning record and 2 playoff appearances with Mitch Trubisky as his quarterback, who's about to be Kenny Pickett's backup. Eric Bieniemy should have been a head coach years ago, yet no NFL franchise will give him his much-deserved opportunity. Spags was an out-of-work defensive coordinator and failed head coach. And Harrison, don't vax me, bro, Butker was on the Panthers practice squad. This team thrives off of doubt. They pay attention to it all and use it as fuel. Well, they're being doubted even more this year and probably more than ever, which is why I'm expecting this team comprised of newer, younger, cheaper players led by the coaching staff, the best coaching staff in football, the best quarterback and tight end in football, to rise above it all. The Chiefs weren't handed the hardest schedule in the NFL. The hardest schedule in the NFL was handed to the Chiefs. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I see it. Is this going to be a challenge for the Chiefs? Yes, 100%. Like I said, a bunch of new starters, a bunch of new proving ground for these players. Patrick Mahomes Volume 2, where it's no longer the run-it-back era. It's now the new era of figuring out what this team is. But with all these things to consider, with the tough-ass schedule, and this will be a tough schedule, no doubt about it. A lot of really good teams on this schedule. But we have to remember the flip side of this. These teams also have to face the Chiefs. Like, that's what I don't think that a lot of these national people are really putting into perspective. Is that although, yes, it will be a challenge for the Chiefs, I think it's a bigger challenge for the teams that have to take on the Chiefs than for the Chiefs themselves. Will we see some frustrating losses this year? Probably. I bet there's going to be some losses where like, God damn it, what the hell were they doing? What the hell was Andy Reid thinking? Man, Patrick did not play to his best abilities. We do this every year. That happens at least once every year. But I think we sat here and we talked about this draft class, and we sat here and talked about this team's direction and the coaching staff and how they have 3 guys on this coaching staff alone that should be head coaches. And they're the 3 best coaches in this division, at least the most proven. And I find it hard for me to see all these things and to relay all these facts and then be fearful of a tough schedule. This team has hosted the last 4 AFC championships. Will that last forever? No. But guys, Patrick Mahomes is in the prime of his career. Andy Reid is still a top-tier head coach, if not the best coach in football. And when you have that advantage each and every week, which the Chiefs will each and every week, it's hard for me to imagine that they don't have the favorable odds in each and every one of those games. So again, we're still months away from making our official predictions. And maybe I will have a change of heart and how I feel about this team moving forward. But I don't think so. I think right now as it stands, this team is still at the top of the AFC until somebody shows me that they can take that next step. Because I'm hearing that the Buffalo Bills are knocking on the door. They're knocking on the door. They've been knocking on the door for years, for a couple of years now. Well, they lost the AFC Championship in 2020, and they lost in the divisional round in 2021. Both times to the Chiefs. So are they knocking on the door, or are they banging their heads against the wall? The wall known as the Kansas City Chiefs.
Something's knocking.
There's something happening. And I don't know if I can just assume that the Bills are taking that next step when they still can't get over one common foe each and every year. Sure, they beat the crap out of the Chiefs last season in the regular season. Beat the shit. I had a front row seat with Shaggy Shane, who ironically is our guest today. But what happened when it mattered the most? When there was 13 seconds left on the clock. When there was an overtime to still be had. Another overtime in Kansas City in the playoffs. What happened this time? When it mattered the most, when the lights were the brightest. Patrick Mahomes advanced, the Chiefs advanced, and Josh Allen and the Bills went home. And made that depressing-ass little video about how close they were. So until these things happen, and until I see a roster and a coaching staff in Kansas City that's not capable of overcoming the odds, I'm going to believe this team's going to overcome the odds. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. When you saw the schedule open up, Trevor, you obviously don't have any predictions, but what was your takeaway? What has the atmosphere been from you, from other fans? Because I know you guys talk to people all the time on social media and in person.
I have when I first saw the schedule, which is a juggernaut. My perspective is a little different though. I see it from the other way. I see it from the opponent's aspect, from the opponent's perspective of when they see their schedule and they see the Chiefs on whichever week they got to play us. I see the divisional foes on the weeks that they have to play us, not the other way around. I don't see all these tough teams that we have to play. I see it from the perspective that all these good teams got to face us. You know what I mean? All these good teams got to mark us on their calendar because they know we're the team to beat still, no matter what anybody tells you. It's not the Bills. It's not the Bengals. The Bengals had their little run there. We'll get into all the predictions and stuff as the year goes on and what we think of each team. But I look at it as, all these teams have to overcome beating us. They have to overcome us because we've been the team, right? I mean, I know we failed and fell short last year after having that great game against the Bills, but it's still the Chiefs, man. Like, I know we don't have Tyreek Hill, but we're still the Chiefs. It's still Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and some of these young up-and-coming guys that might, impact this offense in a big way. Who knows what Juju's going to be in this offense? Who knows if Clyde can take this next step? Who knows what a lot of these guys – I know we have a lot of young, unproven commodities added to this team, but a lot of attitude has been added to this defense. Things could definitely change quick in a good way or in a bad way. Things could fall flat and we could – not be as good as we thought we were going to be this year. I have high hopes, though. I really think this team is going to be a really good team, but in a different way. More complete, more well-rounded, less rough around the edges, as we have been in some past seasons. But like I said, I don't fear any team on this schedule. I really don't. I think we have the advantage, and that's not even my homer. It's not a homer take. I'm never that homer guy. I think the biggest game, obviously, that jumped off the page when I first saw the schedule was the Thursday night home opener against the Chargers. That game right there can set the tone for the entire season. If we go on there, let me look at, what was it, the year we won the Super Bowl, 2019, we went to an Arrowhead and mollywopped them when they came into our house, the home opener. I think that was the game that Shermanator had that wheel route play to the house. I think the games like that is what can set the tone. So that game is obviously the one I'm looking forward to the most to kind of kick off our defending our home and getting that going and setting the tone for the division and everything like that. So I think that one excites me the most as what I'm looking at right now. But as far as the schedule, I mean, it is a tough. There's a lot of tough teams, but we're a tough team, and those teams are circling us on their calendars and on their schedules. So that's how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at these teams have to face us, not us having to face these tough teams. You know what I mean? Because I think we're the toughest of the tough teams still, in my mind. And I'm just excited to see, how Patrick Mahomes adjust to new, there's going to be not a new system, but there's going to it's going to be different, man, without the dynamic of Tyreek Hill and what we're used to and the safety blanket that he is and was. I'm excited. Like, I'm a guy that likes challenges. Right now we're standing in front of a mountain. We're packing our gear. We're getting ready to take this thing on and go, free climb this this juggernaut of a schedule. But I only envision us getting to the top of this mountain. You know what I mean? So I don't envision us losing. Are we going to slip? And there's going to be some loose rocks that slip our feet out from when we're trying to climb this mountain? Sure, but I mean I definitely only envision us climbing and conquering this mountain and getting to the top. And as all Chiefs fans should, I believe. Obviously, you got to be real with yourself. There's going to be some losses in this schedule. We're not going to beat everybody. But it starts with our division. That's why I'm so excited for this Thursday night game against the Chargers to open the home opener there. I think that's a huge game to set the tone and get the ball rolling. And that's the first step of the mountain to me is conquering the Chargers because they're going to be a tough match. They've made their moves this offseason. We made ours. So yeah, man, it's going to be. We have a lot of time to discuss this schedule. We have a lot of time to discuss these teams, especially within the division. And then facing the Super Bowl champs this year is a big one as well. That's going to be an exciting one. Getting, and then obviously the Tom Brady Buccaneers, getting that chance, I think, week 3 against them is going to be a fun one. So I just look at it as an exciting thing, man. I'm not intimidated at all in any way. This is just an exciting. I mean, we're going to have a lot of good games against a lot of good teams. You know what I mean? So that's the main thing for me. I think the key word is just excitement. So looking forward to it.
I'm excited for this year. Just to start the season off against Arizona in Glendale, Arizona. To me, that's obviously that's where the season starts. But that's
no D-Hop.
That's where we can see what the Chiefs can actually bring to the table. Because obviously we all know that the Cardinals can be competitive. They showed it last year throughout the regular season. Obviously, they failed in the playoffs, but throughout the whole season they were consistent. So it's a great way to start this season, especially with the quarterback that's very mobile. Especially, obviously, the way the league is going now. I want to see how this defense can adjust to mobile quarterbacks, to quick quarterbacks. Can our defense adjust to their speed? Obviously, we have a younger defense, so therefore I think we can match very well with a mobile quarterback this season. So I'm really excited to see what can this defense do against mobile quarterbacks. And opening the season against Arizona, it's a great way to kind of show us a little bit of what that can be throughout the season. Obviously, it's game one. Yeah. So there's still going to be a lot of iffies and stuff like that, but it can show a lot of promise. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the Week 4 game against the Bucs. Obviously, we're playing Tom Brady earlier this season than we did a couple seasons ago. So it's a great way to kind of see where our team stands. Are we competitive against a great quarterback? So I'm excited about that. Obviously, I'm excited about the season opener with the Chargers, but I see that very competitive. So, like I said, it's very early for predictions. So So I'm excited for that matchup, but I'm more excited about the Bucs matchup, the Colts matchup, the Arizona Cardinals matchup. It kind of gives us a broader for me. It gives me a broader view of what this team can be as the season progresses, and those three teams being in the first 4 weeks of football, it could be a blessing for the Chiefs because it's going to give us a lot of fucking
I think it's important for us to start hot.
Yes,
I think that's definitely important for these young guys.
Especially for I mean we're starting with 4 great quarterbacks. Kyler Murray, he's a good quarterback. Then you go and then you come and play with Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Here in Arrowhead, and then you go and play Matt Ryan, and then you play Tom Brady in the first 4 weeks. Man,
yep.
Talk about tough quarterbacks. So I would love to see what this defense, if what we built in this defense can sustain what those guys can do to you.
Yeah, 3 of the first 4 games are obviously on the road. Not just, again, with all winning records. The Chiefs only have 2 noon games in the first 9 weeks of the season.
And we have a mid-year,
one in the first 9 weeks.
Mid-season bye, too. We have a week 8 bye.
A week 8 bye. The Chiefs have had
that.
at least a week 10 bye. I actually like it later in the year, personally, because that gives you an opportunity to rest later in the season. I would prefer that, but the week 8 is a lot better than some teams who I see are like getting week 6, week 7. I'd rather have a week 8 than that, for sure. But like I said, you have three road games in the first month. All against worthy opponents with good quarterbacks, and we know that something this team struggled with badly last season is when they faced top-tier or above-average quarterbacks. They usually got smoked outside of the Dak Prescott game. They usually got smoked, and I think that's another reason why Brett Veach said, the hell with this secondary, we're scrapping it, and we're starting over with much more athletic younger guys that are trying to prove themselves in this league, which is another reason to be excited. Also the fact that I think that something you both kind of teetered on but didn't really fully lean into it that I want to kind of lean into right now is also the fact that if you look at this schedule, not only is there context to each and every matchup to favor the Chiefs, but all the teams that are out here trying to, especially on the AFC side of things, the pressure's on these teams, not the Chiefs.
Yeah, that was my...
I mean, I know that's what you were saying, but I want to go into detail here. Think about this. Okay, first of all, the Arizona game, the Cardinals game in week 1. We don't even know if Kyler Murray's going to be playing. We have no idea.
D-Hop.
And we know that D-Hop's not playing. They lost Chandler Jones. They lost
Brown.
Christian Kirk, which isn't a great player, but he was a hell of a home run hitting type of player, which Kyler Murray loved to throw to.
Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, exactly. He's new to the team. I don't think he's a wide receiver 1, but he's a good player. But without D-Hop, that's a humongous loss. We saw how they played without D-Hop last season. They won some games, but they still weren't the offense we knew them to be. J.J. Watt's another year older. For me, that team has more questions than answers. So I'm just going to leave that one to the side. But you look at the Chargers.
He's making predictions.
No, I'm not even making the prediction.
No Chandler Jones either. But
these are just the facts. These are just the facts. So I actually love the fact the Chiefs get that game week 1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? An opportunity to play indoors. There'll probably be a ton of Chiefs fans there because Chiefs fans travel well, especially towards the West. I think that's a great opportunity for the Chiefs and their young guys to get integrated. And then they step right into it. You have 2 straight AFC games. And it's against a team, like you said, the Chargers on a short week, who, by the way, the Chargers will have a short week going to that game, and it's a road game for the Chargers. And think about the pressure going into this season. Because after this season, the Chargers are going to have to pay Justin Herbert. That's when his extension can kick in. They can pay him a long-term deal. They have so many new acquisitions when it comes to the defense, when it comes to these aging veterans they added to. J.C. Jackson, obviously a great acquisition. But you're stepping into a realm of, okay, now you got to win. You guys were 1 win last season away from making the playoffs. It's all up to you now to make it happen.
Contract year for
or a tie. Yeah, thank you. You're correct.
It's
good. Good point. Like Justin Herbert even said on the sidelines, I've never wanted a tie more badly in my life.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't get that because Brandon Staley doesn't know how to not go down on 4th downs for some reason.
They literally walked the batter in.
Well, and then Frank Reich is on a hot seat at best with Jim Irsay in Indianapolis. Think about it. He just put all that his neck on the line for Carson Wentz. That failed abruptly and horrifically. Goes against a soon-to-be 37-year-old quarterback in Matt Ryan, who's still good.
I would say, to be honest with you, I think Matt Ryan's a more of an upgrade to Carson Wentz than
I would agree. Yeah. I would agree. My point is that Frank Reich now is having to basically coach for his job, and he's relying on a very aging, rapidly quarterback in Matt Ryan to come in here year 1 and change everything. I just don't know if Matt Ryan's still that guy. We'll find out.
I'll give him kudos though. He identified the moment to cut bait, and he got rid of Carson Wentz after 1 season.
I don't think he had much of a choice though.
For sure, but it's hard to accept an L like that.
A lot of like Trubisky, we all knew first season he was like, that's not it, and they kept him for a little bit longer than
Matt Nagy lost his job because of that.
Yeah, so
look at the Brown situation. You know what I mean, too.
So I think him getting rid of Carson Wentz, kind of like, okay, we're not going to win with him. It's done and over. It took some balls to do that. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then you go to Tampa, which, by the way, why the fuck can we get the Bucs to come to Kansas City? What's up with that? Like back-to-back games or three straight games of playing the Buccaneers at their place. I just say
I don't think the Chiefs players mind going to Florida.
Sure,
we'll give this tirade.
45-year-old quarterback who's already got himself a long-term deal with Fox to be an analyst. They have an aging defense now, already horrific secondary. They have
JPP and
Dominican Sue probably won't be there.
Yeah, probably won't be there.
Their offensive line has taken a massive hit this offseason with Alex Kappa gone. Jansen's another year older. I mean, Tristan Wirf's coming off a big injury. There's a lot of things for the Buccaneers to take on. Also, the fact they switched coaches. Todd Bowles, a defensive-minded head coach, gives Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich the freedom to run their offense the way they want to.
Yeah.
But Chris Godwin, we don't know when he's coming back. There's a lot of questions for that offense. They don't have Rojo anymore. I know he wasn't a great fit, but he was depth piece.
Was it their corners or
we have Rojo.
Their secondary. Oh, their secondary is terrible. Their secondary is terrible. I don't think they've gotten any better.
Yeah.
Then you have the Titans coming off the bye week. Or I'm sorry, no, I'm just skipping ahead.
We're coming up.
Way ahead. Okay, so my screen just glitched on me. Okay, so then their Chiefs are hosting the Raiders, a team the Chiefs own every single season.
55-3.
This is a fun. That's always a fun matchup at home. It's always a fun.
They're gonna bring it, man. I mean, Devontae is gonna be out there. They're gonna bring it. So we got to prepare for that.
But you gotta think again. It's
I wonder if Derek Carr's gonna have that skunk on his head like he did in the draft when he was hanging out with Ice Cube and awkwardly like.
Hey, they played us well last year too.
Well, I'm giving above 50 to 60 degrees.
Yeah.
It was above. 60
yeah, this is a cold game. I'd definitely be
another October game at home.
Far more confident.
It'll be 75, 80 degrees. It'll be 75.
Sunday night, right?
Yeah, Monday night.
Monday night. So
it's October 10th though. It's still gonna be warm out there.
It's starting to be a little bit cool in the night. You know.
And then the Chiefs have back-to-back home games. They face the Buffalo Bills. And I want to stay right here on this one because this is almost the exact same time of the year that the Chiefs faced the Bills last season at Arrowhead, and when they came in here and whooped that ass. Now, there's a significant difference between this Chiefs roster, that game, and this game. There's also some differences for the Bills as well. No more Cole Beasley. You know, they don't have the same defense they're going to have next year. Now, I think Elam will be a good cornerback. I think he'll be a solid cornerback. They really did like him, but we all know they wanted McDuffie, and the Chiefs jumped ahead, and we saw the video.
Yeah.
But this is a game that I think is a pressure cooker for the Bills because even if they were to win this game, I don't think it's going to satisfy them. Because it didn't satisfy them last season. You heard Josh Allen in the presser after they whooped the shit out of the Chiefs by 18 points. They said, this is just a regular season win. And I do believe them because we knew that they were looking at the big picture because they knew more than likely they were going to face the Chiefs in the playoffs again. And what happened? They did. And it was back in Arrowhead. This game is a precursor of what could potentially be round 3. But also look at the Bills moving forward. Okay, Sean McDermott, really good head coach, but is 2-3 in the playoffs in his career, right? Mm-hmm. So there's starting to be a little bit of a hot there too about can he get the job done as a defensive-minded head coach? We know the league is moving towards offensive-minded head coaching, right? And then Josh Allen, this is his final season being a cheap quarterback. After this season, his cap hits over $40 million. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have to start getting creative about how they're going to get guys back. They lost Jerry Hughes, one of their best pass rushers this offseason, went to the Texans.
Cole
Beasley's, he was a hell of a slot receiver for them. Whether he's kind of an odd dude or not, he's still a good football player.
In and out last year with injuries.
Yes, exactly. So my point, and they just paid Stephon Diggs a ton of money.
I was going to say, they got Diggs, but look at what the Chiefs have done in the playoffs to Diggs.
Right.
We have the mental edge here.
So there's a lot of, like when we talk about, the Chiefs got to face the Bills again, no. To me, it's the Bills got to face the Chiefs again.
That's hot.
Because now the pressure is on them more than it's ever been. Because the last couple of years, the Bills have been playing with house money. Because in 2020, no one expected them to get the AFC Championship except me. And then in 2021 comes around, people were picking them, but it was still this, but the Chiefs, man, they're still at the top. Like, Patrick Mahomes, it's his to lose. So now that they didn't get back to the AFC Championship, there's that much more pressure for the Bills to finally get to the Super Bowl. That's why I said, are they knocking the door or are they banging their heads against the wall? Yeah. That's the question to ask here. Are they really going to get past the Chiefs? Because we saw Michael Jordan, as great as he was, couldn't get past Bird and the Celtics, right? As great as he was, for years couldn't get past the Pistons. There's just some teams that have teams' numbers, man. It just happens. And that's what happens. People think that Tom Brady was much better than Peyton Manning or just owned him. That's not true. In AFC Championship appearances against each other, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning went 3-1 against Tom Brady. Yeah. 3-1. So some guys just have some guys' numbers when it matters the most.
Well, and then there's a coaching edge there too.
Significant.
Where anybody that comes from Andy Reid's coaching tree, which McDermott is one of those guys, Andy Reid tends to have an edge on all those guys because he knows them very well. They're his understudies, all these things. Crazy. It's just he's always found ways to beat Harbaugh. Granted, Harbaugh's got him a couple times as well. But
one time.
Oh yeah, that was the weirdest freaking game ever. There was like 13 turnovers combined in that game.
Clyde fumbled it on the final drive.
Yeah, we had the game.
Driving.
We had the game. It was an ugly game. We actually didn't deserve to win that game in my mind. That was a terrible game, but. Either way, 9 times out of 10, Andy Reid gets the edge on facing any of his understudies. So there's that edge as well. And I think the mental side of it, them failing against us so many times can inspire teams for sure. But it also that no matter how tough mentally you are, that is going to linger in the back of your head that you do not want to fail again. And thinking about it over and over again can definitely cause an over obsession of doing that, and it can cause that to happen again.
Because you're the Mighty Ducks, and you'll be okay.
The Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
Nice reference, Eddie. And then the Chiefs go to San Francisco, a team that they're very well informed of, playing them in the Super Bowl a few years ago. And, this will be a different San Francisco team, though, because Trey Lance will be the starting quarterback. At least that's what it looks like at this point.
It's looking like Jimmy G to me.
Here's the problem.
I don't think I believe in Trey Lance
I think that the Niners would be absolute morons to do that because then you're wasting another year of the rookie deal.
He's
Trey Lance. You traded
still there.
3 first-round picks. So Baker Mayfield's still with the Browns.
It's
all about guaranteed money. That's what
they
it
didn't
really
bring in
comes down
Deshaun. They brought in Deshaun Watson.
I get it. But my point, though, is
situation.
that Jimmy G hasn't been moved yet because the Niners still want to trade him. They don't want to cut him and eat the money they have to.
I've heard things about Trey Lance possibly getting moved.
That'd be hilarious.
I've heard.
But let's say the Niners have Trey Lance as the quarterback. There's a lot of mystery there because we don't know what he's going to be.
I think they should go with Trey Lance.
We don't know if George Kittle's going to be healthy by this point because he always seems to be dealing with some nagging injury. I'm not even trying to be. I'm just being real. Nick Bosa, is he going to be the same dominant species we saw him last year? Because he had an incredible season.
They always find ways to win games, though.
They always do. And so this is a game that I think can actually be the first.
Hot late too.
I hate to say this, guys, but this is the one
Debo's
game
still there.
coming into this game. Outside of the Cardinals game, I think this is that one game and so far in their schedule where it's a team's going to come in playing loose against the Chiefs because the Raiders, the Bucks, the Colts, the Chargers, the Bills, they're all going to play knowing how big of a significance this game is for them. Because the majority of those teams are AFC teams, and Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes, it's always going to be a big-time game. Everyone's going to be paying attention. So everyone's going to be playing with a little bit of a lump in their throat. This is the game I think the Niners are looking at this one going, we're going to have essentially a rookie quarterback playing. We're figuring out who this team is. It's still fairly early in the season. It's only about week 7. So they're still trying to figure their way out. I think they're going to play loose in this game, which could be dangerous. Like you said, Trevor, this could be a team that just figures out a way to win a big game against a big opponent. And you know everyone's going to be paying attention. It's a 3:25 game, so the entire West Coast and Midwest are going to be watching this one. It's going to be fun to watch that one. The Chiefs have a bye week in week 8. Again, pretty early, but we'll take it. They have a home game against the Titans. Now, this team, to me, is going to be one of the most interesting teams to predict.
Yep.
And the reason why, not that they're never not, because
Coming
they're always
off
like
the
a
bye.
9-7 team, so it's always like a vanilla team.
Always that division too.
Derrick Henry will be 29 years old this year. Okay? And he just missed almost all of last season.
No A.J. Brown.
So we have no idea what Derrick Henry is going to be this season. You guys know I'm a Derrick Henry freak. I love me some Derrick John Henry.
For sure.
A.J. Brown's gone. Thank you, Trevor, for saying that. They got Traylon Burks, who should be a good receiver, almost the exact same size as A.J. Brown, but we don't know what he'll be. Ryan Tannehill, essentially in his last year of his deal. He's got over $40 million owed to him this year, which is the only reason why the Titans kept him, because he absolutely shit his pants in the playoffs last year against the Bengals and was the single reason why the Bengals advanced.
Should have won that game.
So we have no idea what kind of pressure Ryan Tannehill is going to be under and how well he'll play. Their offensive line is shaky at best. We don't know how good their defense is going to be this year because they lost guys on their defensive line. Their secondary is atrocious. So this is one of those games where the Chiefs could probably go in there and get some revenge because last season, Titans beat the shit out of the Chiefs 27-3.
Well, no one wants to play Andy Reid coming off a bye. And he's one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach, coming off a bye record-wise.
What, once or twice?
I think twice in his career after coming off a bye, right?
Twice.
Yeah.
It's like 2 or 3 times, honestly, but he's won like 90% of the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he has the best record ever coming off a bye.
Another back-to-back home games off the bye, which I really do like for the Chiefs. Back-to-back home games after the bye, and this one is against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, people just assume like, oh, this is gonna be a blowout, this, and it could be. It very well could be. But this team's gonna be fun to watch because Doug Peterson's a hell of a coach. I think he'll get this young team motivated. There'll be a lot of inexperience and naivety to this team, so they'll probably lose some bad games.
Team.
But they won't be stupid this season like they were with Urban Meyer. They will have direction. They will have leadership. So I want to see the Chiefs take this game seriously. It'd be cool to see Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, my guy that I love very deeply, and honestly, Josh Allen, the edge rusher, Aiden Hutchinson. How good is he going to be for the? I'm sorry, Trayvon Walker. I said Aiden Hutchinson. I just assumed the Lions didn't get him because it was a common sense move to take him first overall. Trayvon Walker. How good's he going to be for that defensive line? If he's good, that defensive line's going to be nasty for that team.
Yeah.
And then we have the Chiefs travel to L.A. to go to the Chargers again. The pressure, let's say the Chiefs were to win that first game in Thursday night.
How big this game could be.
Oh my God. If they're trailing the Chiefs by a single game and now it's like starting to become crunch time, it's November 20th, about to be that Thanksgiving time where things really start to kick in, how much pressure is going to be on the Chargers in this one, especially if the Chiefs were to take that first game? A lot of pressure on that Chargers team, again, who's 15-17 in the Justin Herbert era. Brandon Staley, still not a proven commodity, a head coach. Is Austin Eckler going to be healthy? Is Mike Williams going to be healthy? Is Keenan Allen going to be healthy? Is Derwin James going to be healthy? Is Khalil Mack going to be healthy? Is Joey Bosa going to be healthy? All these questions for this team. More than likely, half those guys will be out at this point of the season, and they have to try to beat the Chiefs at least once for a tiebreaker hopeful. So there's that. And then the Chiefs stay in LA and face the Super Bowl champions LA Rams. Now, this is the game. I know that matchup-wise is the most exciting game possible for the Chiefs. But here's the other thing we have to remember for the Rams. Will they have a Super Bowl hangover? Sean McVay finally getting his Super Bowl championship. There was talks about whether he'd be a coach this season or not. I always believed he was going to be. I think he was using that for leverage for contractual obligations. Matthew Stafford, still to me an elite quarterback. I think he's going to continue to be this year.
Aaron Donald's debating retirement.
There's a lot. Again, this Rams team, like how certain are we about this team moving forward? I know everyone's just penciling them back in the Super Bowl. And if they stay full tilt, if they just come back with the same mentality they had last season, they probably will get back to the Super Bowl because they're that great and the NFC is that wide open. Yeah. But do we know for certain about this team? Because I guess, like Trevor just said, their best player overall was not wanting to come back to play football, or at least was considered. And usually when guys are 1 foot out the door, they're almost all the way out the door. That's usually how it goes. And Matt Stafford will be good enough in this offense, but they did lose Robert Woods early in the year last year, and they won't have him at all this year because he got traded to the Titans. OBJ. Will he be returning and when? That's the question.
Will he be a Chief?
This could be the time of the year where he finally comes back because it usually takes 8 to 12 months for you to come back from an ACL. Mm-hmm. This would be around 8 to 12 months since he tore his ACL in the Super Bowl. So, will OBJ be good enough? Is Cooper Kupp going to replicate what he just did, which is the greatest season we've ever seen a wide receiver have? Yep. There's just a lot of things for the Rams to consider here, and it's an Arrowhead. They don't have the reliance of going, because I said they stayed in LA, but they actually come back home to play the Rams and here at home at Arrowhead. So this is gonna be a fun fucking game, man. I think this is gonna be a good one. But again, the Rams this late in the season, will they still stay hungry, still have that drive to try to repeat themselves as champions? That's a good question to have. Go ahead. You guys have anything to add?
I was gonna say, so looking at all these games so far, heading into this next season, like what is your? Because a lot of people are excited about what the offense is gonna look like. No Tyreek, the changes there. For me personally, what makes or breaks this season is how this defense develops.
100% agree.
For me, like we have so many new names, so many young guys, and we have the veterans like Frank Clark and Chris Jones who are supposed to be the pillars. You know, we brought in Justin Reed, who's semi-veteran guy, who's been in the league for a few years, has been a good, solid player, but has been on a trash team. And now he has an opportunity to lead that safety room, and alongside Juan Thornhill, supposedly supposed to be those two pillars for the safeties there. A lot of young cornerbacks, a lot of young safeties, a lot of young guys in this secondary. Obviously, L'Jarius Sneed being one of the captains, looking like probably for this defense as well. One of the guys that knows this defense well at this point. So a lot of new names. The linebacker core is young but violent and aggressive, and a lot of attitude on these young guys, this young core. I'm very excited about it. But I think if this defense fails and it's not as good as we need it to be, that can be our season right there. I know, not to take away from anything we all know Patrick Mahomes is, but he's also dealing with some, losing his number one guy. That's a big thing for a quarterback. So I think the main thing for this season, looking at all these games and these tough offenses and this great quarterback play we're going to have to go against, I think Patrick Mahomes can throw for 5,050, and our defense could, make or break us still.
I'll answer your question. It's by far the secondary. It's by far the defense, because we've seen it before. When the Chiefs have a top 10 defense, they've made the Super Bowl. In 2019, they had the 7th ranked defense, won the Super Bowl. In 2020, they had the 8th ranked defense, made the Super Bowl. The only reason they didn't win the Super Bowl is because their offensive line was completely depleted. That's the single reason. So you give Patrick Mahomes a top 10 defense, Trevor, like you said, and I'll go a step further. I'll make a prediction right now. I'll break my own rule. I will break my own rule to help your point, Trevor, because I believe in it that much.
Don't do it.
If the Chiefs finished 29th in sacks last season.
Yeah.
If the Chiefs finish in the top 15 in sacks this year, they will be back in the Super Bowl. You know why? Because they will have a top 10 defense if they're top 15 in sacks. Because that means the point differential is going to go way down. That means their scoring average, all those things are going to go way down. Scoring defense is going to go way down if they're top 15 in sacks. So I'll make that prediction right now. The Chiefs are top 15 in sacks this season. They go down 14 spots because they were in the AFC Championship with the 3rd worst pass rush in football. If they go down 14 spots, that team is 100% in the Super Bowl, because to that point, I am that confident that this offense is going to be just fine. They will be a top 5 offense, in my opinion. They got plenty of weapons, and as long as you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid working together, and it goes further and further along, because we know Andy Reid, or Tom Brady and Belichick, as the years went on, they became that much more familiar with each other and knew what each other wanted out of the game. So another year with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid together, adding back Matt Nagy is only going to add more to this team and more versatility. And I talked about how exciting it is that they kind of get out of the Tyreek Hill umbrella. Not that, obviously, I would love to have Tyreek Hill still, but now it adds more fire and of a challenge to the Chiefs to get better at offense and not so much rely on, all right, it's 3rd and 6, we got to go to Tyreek Hill, or we have to go to Travis Kelce. And to that point, killing a narrative, and then we're going to get back to the schedule before we have our guy Shaggy Shane on. Patrick Mahomes in his career has thrown 88 touchdowns to guys not named Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. That's 49% of his career touchdowns. So almost 50% of the time he's thrown a touchdown to guys that are not his 2 most prolific stars. So that's got to excite all of you guys, because I think that's something we're looking at now, adding Juju Smith-Schuster, MVS, Sky Moore, those weapons to the equation.
Yeah.
49% of his touchdowns have already gone to guys like Demarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle, who are nowhere near the talent level of Juju Smith-Schuster or Sky Moore.
Right.
So you're adding these guys to replace those other guys, and you still keep Travis Kelce, who's going to, I think, have another amazing season, barring injuries or anything of that concern.
Volume alone.
All of a sudden, you're still looking at Patrick Mahomes not potentially missing a step. Mm-hmm. So I want to add to what you're saying, that this offense is going to be just fine. I'm not worried about the offense at all. Yeah. They're going to figure this shit out. But the defense, Trevor, to your point, if they're good, borderline great, this team is still the best team in the AFC. I would make that prediction right now. I know I broke my own rule, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it.
Bare minimum, we're going to need them to be at least really good, because, all these quarterbacks that we're going against, we can't expect Patrick Mahomes to be Superman every single week. We don't want 2018 all over again. That's not what we want. So That's my biggest thing. Just looking at when I first looked at the schedule, man, I was like, all right, Patrick Mahomes is going to duel with a lot of great quarterbacks. Even just within this division is going to be tough and a challenge, but this defense has got to step up. This defense has got to be ready to go. Yeah. And that's a lot to ask. It's a tall task for a lot of these young guys, but I think we drafted really well. We got a lot of guys that are day ones possibly. I really do. I think the secondary is going to be aggressive, and that's my main thing.
That's why I like how we open against the Cardinals, because I think that's a perfect opponent. Just like you said, I mean, we still don't know what they are, but like I said, if Kyler Murray is to play and he's going to start for the Cardinals, it gives this defense a great start to those mobile quarterbacks to get them familiar with
that defensive
with that
line.
kind of stuff. Yes, can the defensive line put the pressure in those mobile quarterbacks? So it's a great way to start the season. And like I said, it can give us a little sneak peek of what it could potentially be, or what can these defensive players can produce out in the field against a mobile quarterback. So I'm really excited for that.
Hell yeah. And then the Chiefs obviously get their opportunity for revenge going back to Cincinnati on December 4th. This will be another 325 game. And again, guys, I'm not making this up. I think I'm in week 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, week 13, and to this point of the season, the Chiefs only had 2 noon games. Like, everybody wants to watch the Chiefs, man. This is for certain now. Like, they are the primetime spot. Everybody wants to see them. And this will be a big game for both these franchises because the Bengals, to me, have a ton to prove. Like you said earlier, Trevor, this is a season where the Bengals, okay, what's Act 2? You guys got to the Super Bowl. A lot went right for you guys. Yep. You didn't play your best, and the AFC just shot themselves in the foot throughout the entire process. Raiders had an opportunity to beat you. Derek Carr throws a pick in the end zone. The Titans had multiple opportunities. Sacked Joe Burrow 9 times. Tannehill throws 3 picks. But the Chiefs, nothing can go wrong for the Chiefs in the first half. All of a sudden, they forget how to play offense, and their defense can't make the pivotal plays in that overtime game, and then they win that game in horrific fashion. I can't imagine that's going to happen again, but if the Bengals get better, it may not matter. Yeah. If Joe Burrow takes another step and this team's even better than
they're going to be a good team,
then all of a sudden it may not matter how good the AFC is. Maybe they just go back to it. Maybe they just go back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but it's kind of like the hungover for the Super Bowl champ. It's kind of like for the losers. Once the losers lose the Super Bowl,
it's a fair point.
It fucks with them mentally.
Yeah. It's a fair point.
I mean, look at the Chiefs. Though we did make it back to the AFC Championship, this previous season was not easy for the Chiefs, and we saw it against other teams who've lost in Super Bowls. When they lose the Super Bowl, the next year they either go all the way down or they stayed mid. So
there's science to that. Yes. That's the ultimate dopamine hit for any athlete is to win a championship. Exactly. So a lot of times when you win it, that's when the drop-off can be significant. But typically athletes respond better to losses. That's why, like even Patrick Mahomes has said, he's learned a lot more from losses than he has wins. That's true. It's true.
Yeah, but in the NFL, like if you see years past, the losers go on for the next year, go on to either miss the playoffs, go get a top pick, or
I think the Bengals are far too talented to be all time just fall off and miss the playoffs. That's tough for me to believe. I think they'll be a good team.
The problem though is that to Eddie's point though, that AFC North is not going to be as bad as it was last season.
You got Jackson coming back.
The Browns fell down big time when they had a bunch of injuries. The Ravens won't have 14
it's not even
players
close.
on IR.
The Bengals are the most at this point the most talented team in that division now.
That's tough for me to say, man. That's really tough for me to say.
Tough.
The Browns are a very talented roster.
With Deshaun Watson now?
Who's the Browns' number 1 wide receiver outside of Amari Cooper, who's been falling off?
Well, you just said besides Amari Cooper, that'd be the
Is
best
he better than
receiver on
Jamar
the Bengals.
Chase?
That'd be the best.
Is he better than T. Higgins at this point?
I think to this point he's been more accomplished than Jamar Chase.
Has he ever had a season that Jamar Chase had last year?
I think
Jamar Chase's rookie year.
Jamar Chase is the best.
If I had to build my
which quarterback's better in that division
North,
right
if I was
now?
building
We don't even know if Deshaun Watson's playing.
If I was building an all AFC North team, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase would be the top of my list. But after that, you have
Browns
like
have
Myles
the better
Garrett.
running back.
You have but I'm saying you have Myles Garrett. You have plenty of players across the board in that AFC North that are T.J. Watt, Casey Hayward.
Steelers.
I mean, they have a ton of talent across the board.
There's a lot of question marks on all those teams right now. The Bengals are the only team that doesn't really have any real question marks.
Really?
They just almost they were just in the Super Bowl. I mean, it's the same roster pretty much.
I know, but I'm saying that I think we all agree though that the Bengals made the Super Bowl more because of what the AFC didn't do to them in the playoffs than what they did to the AFC in the playoffs.
I don't know if it's more. Things did break their way, but I don't know if it's more of that. They definitely worked to get there. They had some close calls, but I mean,
Joe Burrow was not good in the playoffs.
But let me look at the Chiefs running in 2019. Granted, we were the reason a lot of things broke our way, but a lot of things did break our way. You know what I mean? There's some things that we were down 20-plus points twice.
I'm just saying that the Bengals could have very well lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Raiders.
Yes, I mean,
if Derek Carr doesn't
like
throw
I'm
that
saying,
pick.
we could have lost to the Texans. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of things happened in that game that were crazy, and we ended up pulling that one out.
Again, but to help my point, the reason why the Chiefs could have lost to the Texans in 2019 is because what the Chiefs are doing to themselves. It wasn't because the Texans were taking it to the Chiefs. The Chiefs had horrific execution, multiple turnovers, multiple drops, fumbles on the punts, like things like that were happening. Yeah. And then when the Chiefs put it together, they whooped the shit out of the Texans.
For sure.
That's not what the Bengals did. The Bengals they gave up 9 sacks to the Titans and still won the game because Tannehill handed it to them.
Yeah,
Literally called it Tannehill.
I'm just saying things did break our way as well, though. There were some crazy turnovers from the opposition and things like that happened. And if those didn't happen, we would not have won those games.
Right.
So I'm just saying, like, I'm not going to. I mean, granted, I do think the Bengals were a little overrated last year. I think they overachieved. I'm 100% with you on that.
Yeah.
But I think as far as talent-wise and a team that's ready to win again, I think that they're the number one team right now because we can't trust the Ravens to stay healthy. We can't trust Lamar Jackson to perform every week because he's had very up and down games, especially last year. Granted, he was hurt a lot. There's a lot of question marks in that division. We don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Browns. I think the Bengals are the best team right now in that division. I don't think it's close right now.
But yet again, it's the division. It's a division opponent, so therefore, it's going to be tough for the Bengals to outdo the rest of the division, knowing that they got to play him twice each time.
And whoever the Steelers quarterback is going to be an upgrade from what Ben Roethlisberger was.
And that Steelers defense is going to be gnarly once again. That's always a good defense.
And Kenny Pickett or Mitchell Trubisky will be better just on default than Ben Roethlisberger.
It's still question marks, all I'm saying. I don't know if I'm not saying the Bengals are going to win that division outright. We don't know. And if Deshaun Watson is the starter for the Browns all year, that's going to be a good team and a fun team to watch.
And then what do you know? After that game, the Chiefs finally play the Broncos. It's a Sunday night game.
I know we got to wait all damn year to watch this matchup,
Week
man.
14, man. Yeah. The first time the Chiefs played the damn Denver Broncos. I'm gonna be paying, even though the Chiefs don't play until way late in the season, and they play them twice in 1 month's time. Week 14 and week 17 is when the Chiefs played the Broncos. I'm going to pay attention to the Broncos this year because I think they are the most boom or bust team in the entire NFL.
I'm with you on that.
Because of the fact that, yes, Russell Wilson by default makes you a better team because he's just a great quarterback still. But even himself, we talk about the questions he has coming into this season. New offense, new system, 34 years old, hand surgery, 5'10", been sacked almost 500 times in his career. And he hasn't been good in the playoffs in the last few years either.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions with him, but
the coaching system, we don't know if that's going to be a mesh.
Right.
We don't know.
Let's say though that Russell Wilson is just old Russell Wilson. He's still awesome. Even to his own respect, he starts off seasons incredible. First 8-9 weeks, he's MVP looking, and then he dwindles almost every single year as the season progresses. That's why he's never won MVP. That's why he's never had a single vote as MVP. So there's also that. Then, the unproven commodities surrounding him. Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, who's already gotten himself in trouble, by the way. Lost Noah Fant. Their offensive line is shaky outside of Garrett Bowles. We don't know what this offense is going to be. We have no idea. And they lost Vic Fangio and that stellar defense. They're not going to be a top 5 defense this year. I'll just go ahead and say that because of the fact that you don't just lose a Vic Fangio and get better or stay the same. Yeah. That does not happen.
Well, you lose him and you lose a system and you've lost some players.
Right.
Like, that's a big.
So I don't mean to overlook the Texans and the Seahawks, but we're not expecting them to be world beaters this year.
Right.
So more than likely the Chiefs will handle business with those two teams. But playing the Broncos in a month's time twice is saying something, and it could very well tilt the scales in the AFC West and the AFC's playoff structure. So we'll see how the Chiefs handle those. And then they finish the season in Week 18 on January 8th with the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas. They haven't announced when that game will be played, whether it'll be a Sunday night game. More than likely will be, because I'm sure the Raiders will still be fighting, or they could very well be representing the AFC West at that point. We have no idea what's going to happen, because they did bolster the roster this year. They did give extensions to Derek Carr, Max Crosby. They went and got Chandler Jones. They went and got Devontae Adams. So they got a veteran-heavy team now. Josh McDaniels is trying to prove his worth, even though I think he sucks ass as a head coach. He's 11-17 in his career. I don't believe in him, but he believes in himself, and if him and Derek Carr find something between themselves, all of a sudden you have yourself a very formidable offense, the best offense potentially in the Derek Carr era. That could be posed as something that could be a legitimate threat in the AFC West, and that could very well be a big game for the Chiefs. So we'll see. But overall, like I said, guys, the biggest thing I wanted to put in all this is that the pressure is on the opponents, is on the AFC. Why do you think they did what they did this year? Why do you think the Bills and the Broncos and the Raiders and the Chargers and all these top-tier AFC teams went and did what they did in free agency? Because they knew the pressure's on them. to beat the Chiefs. They knew they were sick and tired, and I quite frankly think the NFL is sick and tired of seeing the Chiefs host the damn AFC Championship. That's why they got the fucking gauntlet in the first 8 weeks.
Yeah.
The NFL's like, fuck you guys, we're going to try to get the Bills this time. Fuck you guys, you can freaking dominate. We don't want a Patriots
It's like a John Wick
dynasty.
movie. You're like, in one scene, he's like fighting off 5 guys, like, oh, damn, that was impressive. And then the next scene's like 10 guys, and like, oh, he decapitated 3 guys somehow and shot 4 of them in the head. And then the next scene is like 15 guys at once, 20 guys at once, and John Wick still managed to get. It's like, did they keep throwing them more and more at us? All I'm gonna say is, man, if we overcome this gauntlet of a schedule here, and we still somehow make it to the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, it's gonna be a story of the ages, man. Because you think this, I mean, the playoffs alone are gonna be insane. Whoever makes it through this insanely stacked AFC. If we make it through this division or this schedule on top in the AFC, my goodness, man. Like, that's a story in itself. And it's just another challenge to go into the books for Patrick Mahomes, man.
We ever got Shane on? Okay, awesome. All right, well, let me get my headset on. Hopefully I don't mess anything up over there.
You're good.
I tend to do that. So, we are privileged and honored to have a guy that we just had on before the draft. He's the most knowledgeable Chiefs fan I know. He's a guy I trust and always go to when I have a question. He comes to me sometimes, which I don't know why, because he knows far better than I do. But let's give it up for our guy, the guy that I call the Oracle, the man that can go into a trance and call a 1973 Chiefs game on a 3rd and 7. Chiefs are down 19-13. We don't know what happened in that play, but Shane does. Let's give it up for our guy, Shaggy Shane Williams. What's up, Shane?
How's it going?
Kind of in and out, a little choppy. Uh-oh.
Hello. Check 1, check.
Yeah, there he is.
There you go.
Are we good? Are we there? Are we good?
I think you're there. It's a little choppy.
Hey, how you doing? You hear me? Check 1, check.
Yeah, we can hear you, brother.
How's it going, man? What do you guys think?
Well, we got a lot. We've been unfolding the schedule, if we will, and I've been talking about how I think that the pressure is on the opposition, not the Chiefs this year, even though they have a gauntlet up front. It looks like in May it's going to be a tough schedule for the Chiefs. But there's a lot of questions about this schedule, about these teams that are coming into this season. A lot of pressure on the Bills, on the Broncos, on the Chargers to perform day one and try to take down the Chiefs. I think that the pressure is on those teams, not on the Chiefs, which I think gives a lot of incentive and a lot of opportunity for the Chiefs to come into the season and play loose and play great and do it early and often. I think that's how it's going to go. But Shane, I wanted to start with a question that you actually outlined for this show today that I wanted to start with. With the 10 picks in the 2022 NFL Draft, why do the Chiefs continue to hype up the unrestricted free agent Justin Ross on all these platforms? And why should we indeed buy the hype?
Because he's ready to prove himself. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. I'm glad we got that cleared up. Justin Ross comes to the team as an unrestricted free agent rookie, of course. He had his opportunity to pick between 5 other teams. Obviously, there's a lot of question marks about him. The same question marks that we've seen with Trey Smith, the same question marks we've seen with other players throughout the years that have fallen throughout the draft for reasons that we didn't know that they had fallen. But when you find out, you do your homework, you see that these players medically may have had issues that caused them to slip. Well, specifically to Justin Ross, his issues caused him to fall completely out of the draft. No team even thought, I'm going to take a flyer, a 7th round draft pick on picking Justin Ross, when in fact they probably should have. Chiefs medical expert Rick Bolkalter did a complete check on him. Andy Reid and Brett Veach continue to say that when the media have asked Brett Veach and Andy Reid, since this is all went down, are you going to bring Justin Ross up slowly? Immediately Andy Reid and Brett Veach say our medical staff has cleared him. So the Chiefs are expecting him to hit the ground running, and they would not. Trust me, guys. I know I've been watching a lot of Chiefs football for a long time. I'm old. I'm 52. My vision's going. Enjoy being young, guys. The Chiefs would not be showing so much hype of this kid with 10 draft picks that they could have chose from running around in shorts last weekend if they didn't believe in the possibility of what Justin Ross could be. The kid is hungry. The kid's got some mad skills. 6'4", 210. He's getting his speed back from his foot injury that he had. You know, the biggest thing that happened to Justin Ross, in my opinion, last year is he came back. But he came back with a fracture or a foot injury. I don't know the specifics of his left foot injury, but there was a foot injury that he did sustain. That, in my opinion, and I think in many of people's opinions, was good because of where he was after his, when he got benched at the end of the sophomore season. You know, he came back. He got to run around. He played through a foot injury. You know, he got his juju back, so to speak, but not all the way. Then he went to the combine, and he was still getting over that foot injury, so he wasn't as fast. So now everybody passed him into the draft. He had 5 or 6 teams to choose from, and he looked at those 5 or 6 teams and said, I want to go to Kansas City. We don't need to ask why. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's Andy Reid. It's Eric Bieniemy. It's Matt Nagy. It's the entire Chiefs offensive brass that can expedite Justin Ross's NFL growth. And with the Chiefs hyping him up with 10 NFL draft picks, I expect to see him continue that growth. I understand that everybody's being apprehensive. You know, what about his spine? What about his neck? What about this? What about that? Are you going to continue to bring him slowly? When the Chiefs continue to have mini camp in May and in June, we're going to see how he works in with the rest of the veterans. You know, when the veterans show up, how is he going to look with the veterans? How is he going to look in pads? How is he going to look against opposing NFL cornerbacks that he's lined up in practice? You know, when he's making the breaks, when he's making his moves. More importantly, when he's learning this dynamic offense. I'm excited about it. I'm buying the hype. I saw what the Chiefs did with Trey Smith after 31 other teams let him slip to the 6th round. Rick Bullhalter, I wish he was my doctor so he could look me up and give me a clear bill of health, because I think Justin Ross is ready to take over the National Football League. Call me crazy. Call me crazy because I'm buying it.
Man.
Crazy.
No, I definitely know that you are buying the hype, Shane, because I know you also created the Justin Ross fan page of the KC Chiefs page on Facebook. So if you guys are on Facebook, go ahead and like that page as well. Shane does run that one. He started that, I believe, a little over a week ago. So I know Shane's buying the hype, and I hope for your sake, man, it does work out, because it does sound like the Chiefs really are buying into the hype as well. And I think he's extremely talented. If he stays healthy, he could very much be a day one contributor for this team, because he did his thing with Clemson back in the day, and I would like to see him have himself an NFL career. Moving to the next question here, because we actually just got done talking about the schedule and gave our takes on it. I would like to get your thoughts. What are the, when it comes to challenges, which we know is the landmark of looking at a schedule and trying to figure out what the challenge is going to be for the Chiefs. What are the challenges for you, Shane?
Having more away. With the unbalanced schedule that every team has to go through now, you're going to play more with 17 games. You're going to play more on the road. Last year we had the benefit of playing the Packers at home, so this year that extra road game in Tampa Bay against Tom Brady will be a struggle. But I think it's going to be fun to watch. I think the Chiefs should win, but it's just the fact that mentally that you have to go. You have to play more road games, but that's a part of the ticket. I'm ready to buy it. I think having the first 3 or 4 are on the road, and the last 2 or 3 of the season are on the road. The Chiefs don't face Denver until December. And we were ready to hype up that Russell Wilson versus Patrick Mahomes, and now we got to wait until the plaza lights are lit up and our Christmas trees are up in our house before we finally get to see how Russell Wilson versus Patrick Mahomes looks. Russell Wilson opens the 2022 season in Seattle on Sunday Night Football. My oldest daughter will be there watching that game. The Seahawks, Seattle still loves Russell Wilson, but they are rebuilding their offensive line to get ready for next year's draft, so they're locked on lock. And but enough about Seattle. The Chiefs schedule, I am excited about it. There's so many primetime games. I think that the primetime games are going to be fun. I hope and pray that we win them all, buddy. And I'm excited, dude. I'm excited about what these kids can bring, man. I'm excited about the entire nucleus of the draft.
Well, speaking of that, the new defensive additions from the draft, I mean, I think they're going to be foundational pieces, not just for years to come, but for this next season. I know that we talked about how the Chiefs have to go defense heavy in this draft. They did. I believe 7 of their 10 picks were defensive players. I predicted that the Chiefs would make 8 total picks, and 6 of them would be defensive players. So it was a close margin as far as where we saw the Chiefs going mentality-wise. I thought they were going to go more pass rush, edge rush. They ended up going a lot of secondary, which I am cool with as long as it works. And I think when you see these guys like McDuffie, when you see these guys like Brian Cook, I think that you're going to see these guys become primary players. I'm not saying they're all going to pop and be top-tier, all-pro players, but I think they can all find their place in the SPAG system. And I'm very excited about that. But I want to get your thoughts on these new defensive additions from the draft and how they'll be the foundation of this team for many years to come.
Oh, man. With the coaching staff and the players the Chiefs attained in the draft are going to grow. You know, you look for I know as rookies, we're going to talk now, but longevity-wise, these guys are going to be the foundation of this team for many years to come because of their skill set and because of the type of leaders they are. They're smart and they're violent. Those are the perfect combination when you're rebuilding a defense. What I love about George Karlaftis is he's got a lot of lower body strength. He's got a lot of energy. He's already running 100 miles an hour at rookie minicamp. Andy Reid has already had to tell him he needs to slow down. He's ready to prove his worth, man. He played water polo and before he started playing football. I know that doesn't sound really comparable to football, but it talks about his lower body strength, which I just said. But I think that he's going to come in. He's going to prove himself. He's got a lot. He's got a lot of gumption and a lot of want-to. I know his sacks weren't highly there at Purdue, but I think Spagnuolo's going to put him in a place to be successful. I love Trent McDuffie. Man, I'm so thrilled we drafted that cat. He fell all the way to 21. I can't believe it. He's comparable to me to Brandon Flowers. The way the way Brandon Flowers would come up. If you watch Brandon Flowers film and Washington Husky film of Trent McDuffie, I see a lot of Brandon Flowers in Trent McDuffie's game. And Brandon Flowers wasn't no slouch. I love that guy. He played with a lot of want-to. He plays with a lot of, wants to get to the ball, not afraid to put his head down, his shoulder, and wrap up the guy and make the plays. And he's a damn good in secondary as well. Brian Cook, man, that dude, have you seen the highlights on him? He's got some long arms. He can get after it. He can hit.
Cracks.
Yeah, definitely, Trevor. Definitely. He's taken over for Dan Sorensen, Dirty Dan. So since Brian Cook has taken over for Dirty Dan, I gave him the nickname Dirty Cookie because the Dirty Cookie get after these guys. So I'm stoked about Brian Cook. I don't know about the guy from the small school. What was that? What was the Daryl? What's his name? Williams. I should know. He's got my last name. But what's his first name?
Joshua Williams.
What school was that?
Lafayette?
Yes. What was it? It's a small school.
Lafayette?
I don't know. It's a small school. I don't have the stats right here in front of me. But it's a small school. They trust him to come in and play some good defense. And I trust what Spagnuolo is going to do with these kids. He's going to put them in situations to be successful. And Leo Chenal, we cannot forget about Leo Chenal. Because Leo Chenal is going to come in and he's going to take over for Ben Neiman. The Dirty Cookie, Brian Cook, is going to take over for Sportsman. I trust Chanel and Brian Cook in blitz packages more than I trust Dan Sorensen and Ben Neiman. I think Chanel is going to be everything that Ben Neiman wasn't. I know that Spagnuolo kept Ben Neiman out on the field over Dorian O'Daniel because he felt that Ben Neiman had the mental mind. He was mental makeup to play over Dorian O'Daniel, but he wasn't athletically inclined to be very successful in blitz packages. And I think Leo Chenal picks up that slack in that department.
Joshua Williams, by the way, went to Fayetteville State, so Eddie was really close. it's in the same vicinity. But yeah, Fayetteville State is where he went, and he's a 6'3" cornerback who's going to be a project going into this season, but it's still exciting to see that type of athleticism being added to the secondary. And I actually love that nickname you gave Brian Cook, man. Dirty Cookie is great. That's a great freaking nickname. So congratulations to that one, Shane. But you say what?
My brother Rob, Dirty Cookie.
Okay. Congratulations to him, because that was awesome. Moving to a team that I think has just about as much pressure as any team in the league, the Buffalo Bills. I talked about how in the beginning of the show that everyone's talking about on the national level that the Bills have been just knocking on the door for 2 years now. They've just been knocking on that Super Bowl door. And then we see in 2020, the Chiefs beat them in the AFC Championship. They lose in the divisional round in 2021, again to the Chiefs. My question with this team is, are they knocking on the door, or are they banging their heads against the wall known as the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead? Because that's the question I think that they got to answer. They're going to have a lot of pressure this year because Josh Allen, this is his final season where he's not expensive. If they weren't to win the Super Bowl this year, that means that McDermott would have roughly still a losing record in the playoffs as a head coach. So that begs the question, can he get it done? They have new pieces. They've overspent on Stephon Diggs, in my opinion. They went and put a ton of money on a 33-year-old pass rusher who's had multiple knee injuries in Von Miller to try to solidify their defense, even though they lost Jerry Hughes. But the funniest thing to me that happened this offseason with the Bills was seeing that video that for some reason they thought it was a good idea to put it out there, where they show their brass talking about the Chiefs trading ahead of them with the Patriots to go and get the guy we all know they wanted in Trent McDuffie, who you're big on. I think a lot of us are big on. To me, what did the Bills have to gain by letting the world know publicly that the Chiefs pulled this off in the first round instead of them taking the player they wanted?
I don't let the player because I think we all know, follow the draft closely. Yeah, you're not the player you want. Somebody trade up or something draft player. Put it out the leg.
Hey, Shane, we're having a problem hearing you, man. Can you? Is the reception a little rough where you're at?
Can you hear me now?
A lot better, yeah.
You're just kind of choppy in and out a little bit.
Okay, well, I'm right here.
There
Okay,
you go. That's good.
I'm moving this as much as I can.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
You're fine.
I just think that the Buffalo Bills made you don't hurt your fan base more by letting the team that knocked you out in the playoffs the last 2 years take the guy that you wanted. Even though I think all the insiders said the Chiefs traded up to get their guy. The Chiefs traded up with Buffalo to get the Buffalo Bills pick. I don't think it was a good idea to do that. What if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, Trevor? How do you feel about knowing that the Chiefs just traded up to get your guy?
Oh, it's more fuel to the fire. You know what I mean? I'm with you on that. But we got the guy, so I agree though with that being another edge. But I mean, they still got to go out there and beat us when it counts, and we've been the one to end up on top of that. So,
how do you feel, Eddie?
If you're a Buffalo Bills
fan, if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you know the Chiefs just took your pick.
Oh man, I'll be livid. I'll be mad. I'll be upset. I would want to beat him as bad as I possibly can when I come to KC.
Right. What about you, Lance? How do you feel?
I think it's. I think the Bills have to look at it like this. The Bills fans have to look like this. We'll finish second to the Chiefs again. This is becoming a tradition. No, I like it. No, I'm talking about Bills fans. They're like, man, we are really the redheaded stepchild here. Like we are just going to finish second in everything when it comes to the Chiefs.
I'm thrilled we got Trent McDuffie. I spent the first round of the draft begging the Chiefs not to trade up in the first round. I was thinking, please, God, do not let us trade in the first round for a wide receiver. But what we will hear later on in the summer that the Chiefs were interested in trading up for James Blake, but they weren't going to trade up till 12. That story will break later in the summer. I was expecting that as well. So when you hear a story break this summer that the Chiefs were on the verge of trading up for Jameson Williams and it didn't happen, don't let it bum you out like the Buffalo Bills fans were bummed that we got Trent McDuffie, because the Kansas City Chiefs did the right thing by staying where they were, trading up 8 spots for Trent McDuffie, and I'm stoked for it. I love Jameson Williams. He's going to be a stud. I'm sorry he's with Detroit. I'm sorry he was expected to be drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. His whole family was decked out in red. They thought they were going to be on the Chiefs, but he's got to go to Motown and learn how to play with Jared Goff. I'm stoked that the Kansas City Chiefs drafted Trent McDuffie.
Yep.
50 years ago, this August, one Lamar Hunt decided to build a stadium called Arrowhead Stadium. And it's been home to us Chiefs fans ever since. In fact, they weren't even the Chiefs before that. They were known as the Dallas Texans. 9 years from today, or 9 years from this year, the lease at Arrowhead will be up, and there will be even more questions as to where the Chiefs will be playing moving forward for the next 9 years. Now, I don't believe it's going to be a mystery in the next 3 to 4 years as far as where the Chiefs are going to play, whether they're going to re-up at that complex, the Truman Complex, and with the Royals inevitably moving to downtown, the Chiefs have a lot of opportunity to utilize that space that will be free and open once the Royals move to do what they want, or they can do what a lot of people think is just insane and could never happen or could be impossible, which I actually think could very well happen now that the gambling has opened up officially here in Kansas City. It will start in July, but regardless, a lot of gambling is going to be opened up here on the Kansas side. There's a lot of space on the Kansas side. The Chiefs have hinted at it. In 2032, do you believe the Chiefs will be playing still in Independence in Kansas City, Missouri? Jackson County will step up, pay those taxes, do what they need to do. I know you're a Jackson County member, if I'm not mistaken, Shane. Just a short drive over to Arrowhead from your house.
Yes.
Where are they going to be playing football in 2032?
Time's on my side. Time's on my side for Jackson County to step up and keep Kansas City at Arrowhead where they belong. But it's not looking good May 14th, 2022. It's not looking good because of the leadership in Jackson County. Kansas is putting together the sweet package, and I didn't like Mark Donovan at first saying Kansas is an option for the Chiefs, because I felt like it hurt us. It hurt Jackson County. It hurt the people that love going to Arrowhead Stadium where it's currently located. I felt that was a kind of a diss. But if you look at it from a business sense, Mark Donovan's asking Jackson County to show some interest. Not just expect Arrowhead to stay where it's located, even though it is magical and spacious, and even though it is currently the loudest stadium in the NFL and currently is the best place to go tailgate. The area around the stadium is depleted. It's eroding. The giant Adams Mark went out of business 4 years ago. It sits there barren, boarded up. The homeless break into it. The houses around the neighborhood are, on the decline. It needs a serious rebuild. Our friend Grant Morris from Arrowhead Live mentioned how Dallas Cowboys took their new stadium and put it in an area that was in the same state, literally, as Arrowhead is currently located, and they were able to rejuvenize that entire area, turn it into a billionaire, extravaganza by putting a stadium at that spot and putting a lot of money, a lot of taxpayer voting, a taxpayer increase. A lot of positivity went into building up Dallas. Granted, Texas is different than Missouri, but Jackson County needs to come up with a plan to not let the temptation of what Kansas has to offer be alluring to Clark Hunt and Mark Donovan. Because Kansas has put together a sweet package. Kansas can say, let's see what Jackson County's doing to keep Arrowhead. We're not doing much. We'll give you this big empty lot, billions of dollars, a retractable roof, Oh, you want the Final Four? We'll do that too. Kansas is going to put billions of dollars together to make it easy for Clark Hunt to look around and say, okay, Jackson County, what do you want to do? I got this mega freaking offer just across the state line. Do you want to pay anything? And what I hear from the majority, and I'm keeping it real, and this hurts me to say, what I'm hearing for the majority of Jackson County taxpayers is, we ain't going to pay for no stadium. They can't even fix the potholes down. We ain't. Hey, get these street lights to work properly. I vote for stadium. Those are over there. They can build their own stadium. I don't want to build. If we keep that same freaking mindset, we will lose. That whole area around the stadium will freaking be depleted. It will go downhill. Jackson County, this is your time to step up. Kansas is going to make Arrowhead up. Kansas is going to make Clark Hunt a freaking mega offer that's going to be too hard to turn down. Jackson County, don't think you won't lose the Chiefs. Don't think you won't lose the Chiefs, because it's a damn freaking possibility. Jackson County, you need to rally. You need to look and see what Kansas is putting together, because they're going to steal your girl. And once you lose your girl, you're going to be alone. Jackson County, step up. Save the Chiefs. Keep them here. And when the Royals go downtown, build that area up just the same way the Dallas Cowboys did 10 years ago. You got to do it. You got to do it. This is where Arrowhead belongs. But if you don't, and if you keep allowing it to erode, and if you keep allowing that area to decay, and you Jackson County and taxpayers, along with me, I'm a Jackson County taxpayer. Yes, Arrowhead Stadium's 4 miles from my house, and it is a short drive. Step up. We got to rally, because Kansas is going to make a freaking hell of an offer, and 10 years from now is going to go by just like that. 10 years ago at this time, the Kansas City Chiefs drafted Dontari Poe. That wasn't, to me, that didn't seem like that long ago. That was in the first round 10 years ago. 10 years are going to fly by. So you need to start stepping up before Kansas really even becomes more of a viable option, because it's there. They're not just going to stay here because we're loyal. Let's step up, Jackson County. We can do this. Let's keep Arrowhead Stadium right here where it belongs. Right here where Lamar Hunt wanted it. Let's keep it here in Jackson County.
Yeah, you guys heard it from the man himself. He's in the thick of it. I mean, Arrowhead's basically his backyard, and he doesn't plan on getting rid of his backyard. So help my guy Shaggy out. If it doesn't happen, I mean, us Kansas folk won't be too upset about it. I mean, my taxes are going to go up, but I would do it gladly. But I understand where Shane's coming from on this, because that is the foundation. That is where Lamar Hunt decided to stake his flag and say, this is where the Chiefs are going to reign. And that's where it's been for 50 years, man. It'd be pretty melancholy to see that end. But like I said, I don't think we'd be too upset over here on the Kansas side, on the 913 side of things. But I don't want to trigger too many folks on this. But I got one last question for you, Shane. We're going to let you loose, man.
Okay.
The Chiefs, although their draft was awesome, I think they're going to have a lot of, like I said, day one contributors, a lot of really good players that are going to make some differences this season. But I do believe the Chiefs have two significant holes to fill, and they both have to do with veteran players and getting more veteran presence. I think those two guys that can fill those holes are Melvin Ingram and James Bradbury. And I think they're two very realistic acquisitions the Chiefs can make this offseason. Melvin Ingram, in particular, because of the fact that the Chiefs, as it currently stands, are going to rely on a rookie edge rusher and George Karlaftis to lift this defense and to get things going on that inside. And I just don't think that's fair to him. I like Karlaftis, I like the pick, and I expect good things from this season, but I just think that's unfair for the Chiefs to rely on him to do that, because we just don't think that enough's going to come from Frank Clark this season to really elevate the edge rush. So they need to go and add Melvin Ingram, who, by the way, was the only guy to sack Joe Burrow in the AFC Championship. So they need to go and get him. And then James Bradbury is a guy I know the Chiefs were in talks of trading for this offseason. Now he's been cut by the Giants. I think it's common sense to add him. Yes, the Chiefs went heavy in the secondary on the draft, but they don't have any true veteran presences there. Justin Reed and Rashad Fenton, I think, are the longest tenured guys in the NFL in the secondary, unless it's Lonnie Johnson. But those guys combined, Lonnie Johnson and Justin Reed, I believe combined, have just as much experience in the NFL as James Bradberry himself. So I think these are two common sense moves the Chiefs can fit under the cap, especially when they get their long-term deal with Orlando Brown Jr. figured out. I think these two moves need to happen. Shane, what are your thoughts?
I agree. First, about Melvin, 2021, our Chief MVP last year. He's the reason why we're in the AFC Championship game. I hope they can line that up, and it does come to effect soon. I think the situation with Bradberry will come down to Orlando Brown. The Chiefs need to get that extension done with Orlando Brown to free up more cap space to sign Bradberry. Could give Bradberry a contract while having Orlando Brown on the tag? Sure. But I think to free up even more cash, it makes better business sense to get that extension done with Orlando Brown first, and then and then take care of the situation with Orlando Brown, and then it'll help with the Bradberry signing. The last time the Kansas City Chiefs took two rookies and just threw them to the Wolves was in 2008, when the Kansas City Chiefs drafted Brandon Flowers in the second round, rookie, and the Kansas City Chiefs in 2008 in the fifth round drafted Brandon Flowers was a second-round draft pick, and Brandon Carr was a fifth-round draft pick in 2008. Herm Edwards threw him to the Wolves. They were solid for 3 seasons before Brandon Carr went to Dallas. So I don't know if Andy Reid's taking the same approach as Herm Edwards to say, I'm just going to let these rookies and these veterans that don't have much playing time in the NFL have this much play. But if it happens, if we don't get Bradberry, I'm excited about the kids. But if we do get Bradberry, I'll be happy too. But I'm not losing any sleep over Bradberry, just because, no disrespect to you. I want to see these kids play. I'm looking forward to the foundation of these kids play. Just be out there and young and hungry and letting it fly and letting it play loose, man. But if we get Bradberry, I'll send you a private message, or I'll send you a text, or I'll send you an annoying message on Twitter, and I'll say, okay, dude, what is it you really like about this guy?
That's fair.
I'm just ready for the kids, dude. I'm ready for the kids. I'm ready.
For sure.
I am too, man. It's going to be an exciting season for sure. And I think that, like I said, I think the Chiefs are going to come into this season with plenty of motivation, plenty of expectation. But I think the pressure right now is on all the other teams they're going to be facing this year. And I think that's going to bode well for the Chiefs. And we'll be giving our official predictions the episode before week 1 of the NFL season, of the 2022 NFL season. And Shane, we're going to have you back on, bro, before the season begins. I can't wait to do that. But in the meantime, let the people know where they can find your YouTube channel. Let them know where they can find you and how they can follow your awesome content.
You can find YouTube, go to YouTube, and on Twitter, I don't tweet much. You can find me at Shaggy Shane KC, and on Facebook, just look for Shane Williams. But more importantly, you should look for the Justin Ross fan page of the Kansas City Chiefs on Facebook. The kid's a star. What do they say when you're gambling? You push all your chips to the front of the table. You put it down. I'm pushing it. If the Chiefs are pushing for Justin Ross, by golly, we all should.
I like it, Shane. We appreciate your time today, brother. We love you, man, and looking forward to talking more Chiefs football with you this summer.
Go Chiefs.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's our guy, Shaggy Shane. If you guys couldn't hear it, I know he had a few connection issues there, but if you guys want to go to YouTube and follow Shaggy Shane KC, or just look up Shaggy Shane Chiefs, you will find all his videos on there. The guy does an incredible job. He gives you everything he's got. He's completely authentic. He's real, and he's going to be the kind of guy that you want to follow. I know I do. I always get, no matter if it's a Chiefs loss, Chiefs win, I always go watch Shaggy's videos because they make me either just as happy as I already was, if not more, or they lift me up because the guy gives me some real stuff, some real content, and we appreciate him always bringing that here as well on the Spoken Podcast. Shout out to Shaggy Shane. He doesn't tweet a lot, but he tweets enough, so go follow him on Twitter as well. I say we roll right into it, man. I do want to get your guys' thoughts, though, before we get to the Eddie Hour, though. Because that is I wanted to get the opinion of Shaggy on adding Melvin Ingram and James Bradberry. I think those are two guys that not only could to help the Chiefs dramatically as veterans, but I think that they want to. I think they are guys that are realistic too. They're not just pipe dream guys. I know that before the offseason really started, we're sitting here talking about going and trading for Josh Allen or going and signing Chandler Jones or one of these big time free agents.
Yeah.
Those ended up becoming pipe dream-esque type of players. Well, I don't think these guys are. I think these are dudes that could legitimately be Chiefs this season. And in particular, Melvin Ingram, because the Chiefs did tender him.
Yeah.
So more than likely, he will be back with the Chiefs. But James Bradberry is a guy that I do believe is could very well be here in Kansas City. We know that Brett Veach is big on him. We know that he fits the defense because he's a zone defense kind of guy. I know Spags likes to play a lot of man, but he's also a big physical cornerback as well and would add that much more because although I'm with Shane, and I know we all agree on this, we want to see the young guys play this season. At the same time, I think it's a little unfair to put McDuffie as the cornerback one and try to make Snead that rotational guy or make him a slot corner strictly, but then try to force him back out there if McDuffie struggles at all, as opposed to having that surefire cornerback one in James Bradberry, who's 28 years old. You can get on a 2-year, $20 million deal right now as it stands, according to Mike Giannetti of Spot Rack. I think that's the way you go about it. You give that much more versatility to your defense, especially if secondary is the mission and the end goal here. Because even though, I saw people talking about how, well, you don't need to add James Bradberry because the Chiefs already went heavy in secondary. Well, you guys remember just one offseason ago. The Chiefs, before even drafting Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, they went and signed Joe Thuney to the most lucrative deal as a guard in NFL history, and they went and traded for Orlando Brown Jr. and signed Austin Blythe, who ended up not even playing for the Chiefs almost all of last season because Creed Humphrey was better than him. So they overcorrected at the offensive line. Yeah. I don't see why overcorrecting in secondary wouldn't be the best thing to do, especially when you consider the fact of how many great quarterbacks and how many good quarterbacks the Chiefs are going to face this year. So James Bradberry being added to the equation only helps the Chiefs stay atop of the AFC. Because you're giving that much more of a challenge to the opposition by adding a veteran presence like that, along with these talented guys the Chiefs just drafted.
Yep, I think there's a chance that we can get both of these guys. Granted, I would lean more towards the Melvin Ingram side, just because I know he's a little older, obviously, but I know what he brings when he's on this roster, and I know the influence he would have on this locker room as well, and we've seen it. He's already done it. He was infectious last year when he joined this roster from his first game playing in the Chiefs uniform. He was infectious. So I want that back. I would like to have that, even if he's not up to par as far as playing. But just having him in the locker room, having that vocal leadership is very important to me as a Chiefs fan, and wanting to see this defense thrive. And I think we have depth right now with DBs. We have depth right now at the in the secondary. We got a lot of bodies back there to compete and see who which cream rises to the top there. So I think we do need more help on the defensive line. So I would lean more towards bringing Melvin Ingram in he was definitely. I think he'll be cheaper than anybody else, honestly. At this, and there's not really anybody else out there besides Jadeveon Clowney who I just don't want to touch. But I mean, bringing Bradberry in, he hasn't been that great the last couple of years. I'll be honest, he hasn't been on a good team either. But a team that's always trailing, and so there's that as well. But he has been a part. He has had really good years as well. So you got to take the pros with the cons. I don't know. I don't think he's going to be a Chief, honestly. I don't. I think Melvin Ingram has much better of a chance. The odds are definitely in his favor. He's already been a Chief before. Guys in his locker room already love him. Coach Spags already vouches for him. He has that relationship already that's built in. Bradberry would be a good Spags guy. So I think that he would fit right into this system, and having that another veteran in that secondary. I feel like, and ironically enough, they're both Washington guys. I feel with McDuffie similar to how I felt about Marcus Peters year one. We were happy about bringing Marcus Peters in. A guy that can go out there and just make plays, and he's far more aggressive than Marcus Peters ever was. He's much better tackler than Marcus Peters ever was. Marcus Peters was a true ball hawk, right? A guy that's just going to go track that ball down, read the quarterback's eyes. It's risk averse, right? He's a high risk kind of guy. He got burnt also a lot of times too in his career so far. But Marcus Peters made more plays than he left on the field, typically, especially in the first couple of years in the Chiefs. He was insane. He was on pace to have an insane amount of interceptions his first couple of seasons. So I see McDuffie as I think he's a day one guy. I really do. I think McDuffie's going to go out there and be that guy next to L'Jarius Sneed. I really do. I think those are going to be our two starting corners. And so, there I'm comfortable there. I think Bradberry could definitely come in and step in to be that veteran leadership guy. I just don't. I personally don't think he's going to be a Chief. I still think a lot of these corners want too much money. I don't know how much Bradbury's wanting, but he couldn't come to terms with the Giants, who have money, right, to pay him, but they'd refuse to. So there's a lot of things there that I think that might keep the Chiefs from making a decision there. And like Shaggy said, we do need to figure out Orlando Brown's deal first, get that locked in, put that into place. That way we know what kind of money we're working with, and we'll have a lot of money still. After that deal's done, but we need to figure that out first, get him locked in and take care of our guy first who's in-house already before we make any decisions otherwise. But I think Melvin Ingram has a great chance of coming back here, and I think if he has to choose between any teams paying him a similar amount of money, I think he would come back to Kansas City, and I think that would make way more sense for him later on in his career to have a good best chance of winning and contributing to those wins.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned on corners. We have depth. I think the rookies that we drafted and the player we traded for from the Texans, I think that's enough for corners. I think we're gonna be good. I'm not gonna say we're gonna be great. We got to give these rookies time to adapt. Obviously, time to learn the plays and stuff like that. So, but yeah, either way, I'm still not concerned. I think they're good enough. I think they're gonna perform to what we know they can. And then Melvin Ingram, that's a player that you want to have here because you need that veteran presence. Obviously,
it's a need.
Yeah. Obviously, with Tyrann Mathieu now gone, you need that vocal leader. And obviously, Melvin Ingram, he was very vocal since he was here, and I think the Chiefs need that kind of leadership. For the simple fact that, to me, in my opinion, I don't think Chris Jones can be that leader. Last season, Tyrann Mathieu went out for one game, or I believe it was I think he missed a game.
Week 1.
To where Chris Jones could have stepped up and be that leader, and we saw him struggling out there. He just wasn't.
Well, Chris Jones was dealing with a hand injury.
Yeah, but
he's getting double teamed damn near every snap.
I mean,
Frank Clark was terrible.
But I mean, who was our offensive line had a broken wrist? So,
I get it. No, I'm not trying. The pain tolerance though is different for each individual. And Chris Jones again is dealing with trying to get through people as opposed to trying to oppose one person. Okay. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. Joe Tooney did what he did.
Besides Chris Jones being a little bitch. No, I'm just kidding. No, but obviously, either way, throughout the season, we didn't see Chris Jones be that vocal leader. Tyrann Mathieu had that role. I get it. You don't want to have too many, but at the same time, two completely different things. Tyrann Mathieu could be in charge of the DBs and deal with that, and Chris Jones could be in charge, be that guy of the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he just didn't step up for me. And I think that when Melvin Ingram came in, he was that vocal leader that the line needed, because that line drastically changed the moment Ingram came into this team. So Melvin Ingram, him being a veteran, it's a must for the Chiefs, and I would love to see him come back. So, but yeah, I'm not too concerned about Bradbury coming to KC. If he comes, great. I would love to move. If he doesn't come, great. I still love to move. So, I'm more concerned about Melvin Ingram actually coming back than I am for Bradbury coming to KC.
Fair enough, man. We have another order of business to get to because, like I said, we've been talking a lot of Chiefs. But we got to get to the Eddie Hour, man. I know you got some. I know you got some questions, man. I'm sure that you have some thought-provoking questions as well. So let's go right into it. Let's get in the meat of it. What's in the Eddie Hour this week, man?
All right, man. Let's go to the first fucking question. I can't wait for this answer. Let's just go right to it. Reactions to the Canelo versus Bivol fight. Because who called it? Who said Canelo was gonna lose?
Well, you say that every time, so you were bound to get it right eventually.
I'm just saying. I was right. Y'all were wrong. Reaction.
This is your moment.
No, I think that Bivol. I watched some of the highlights. Bivol was dominating, honestly, man, in a lot of ways. I saw the way he controlled the ring. He made Canelo literally fight tooth and nail for everything he got. It was a weird mentality that Canelo had. It's so much so that Mike Tyson even came out and talked about how weird it was for Canelo to go at Bivol the way that he did, going up a class like that and trying to attack him the way that he did. It was very weird. Yeah. I'm not saying that Bivol didn't earn the fight. He clearly did. It's all Bivol. He did what he needed to do to win the fight, but Canelo he came in there with a really weird mentality, and I don't think he did the right thing.
That's Canelo's fighting style. What I saw was Canelo's fighting style. He usually goes for the arm, trying to make you bring that arm down. But obviously, as you go up, higher in class is going to be tougher for those guys can take hits.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think Canelo wasn't ready for that because obviously he doesn't fight in that weight class. So he wasn't ready for that. He wasn't expecting that. So his style of fighting, pretty much, how can I say this? It
didn't translate.
It didn't translate to the higher.
It didn't work to his favor like it does in his normal weight class.
Exactly. If he would have went down, if he would have stayed at his weight class and he would have fought another opponent, if he did that same style, either it would have been a knockout or he would have just went the distance and win comfortably. Yeah. But obviously that didn't translate to. So it's not that he changed his style. No, that's the same way he fought Smith, which was the previous fight.
Yeah.
Is he went for the arm and obviously he started dropping it because he couldn't take those hits anymore. And that's when Canelo started rocking him. At this fight against Bivol, he tried to do the same thing, but obviously his style of fighting did not translate to.
Meanwhile, Bivol was landing all those jabs, creating those straights, counter punches. Like he was doing his thing, and I gotta give Bivol all the credit in the world. Now I know that Canelo wants the rematch. And I do believe that rematch does occur. I do believe that rematch does occur, which I have a hard time believing. Yeah, but if it does happen, I do think Canelo wins this one because I think he's gonna recreate or not recreate the mistakes he once made. I think he's gonna change it up a little bit, and he's the better fighter between the two, and I think he gets it done. So I'm gonna go ahead and make my prediction now.
He could be the better fighter and still lose because it's a bad matchup. That's what's beautiful about sports in general, but especially boxing. You know, everyone's got their matchup that's just a bad one for them. You know, George Foreman had his bad matchups. Muhammad Ali had his bad matchups. Everybody's had their bad matchups. Yeah, I mean, I watched a lot of the fight. I watched after the fact. I didn't watch it live, but the thing that stuck out the most to me was the game plan. I just think Bivol had the better game plan. He was ready for the style of fight that he knew that Canelo was going to want to bring. Canelo was definitely aggressive, and there's a power difference in this weight class. And Bivol not only had good power and packed a lot of power, even in the jabs, but the speed with the power. The guy's good. That's my first time ever watching him fight, and I was like, "Damn!" The counter hits is what was, because it's funny the whole time. You talked about how Canelo tries to bait his opponents into dropping their arm, but Bivol knew that, and Bivol was baiting him into doing that, and he was countering all those hits. He would let Canelo hit him, and then boom, 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 get him right after he was. It was a combo too. I gained. I'm a fan now. Like that watching those highlights of what he was doing was incredible. The guy's a stud. I didn't know much about him. I didn't give him the benefit of the doubt because that was my lack of knowledge of the guy. But man, he won that fight fair and square, straight up, and dominated. And yeah, I can't say much more about it. The counter hits and him playing off of what he knew Canelo was going to try to do. It was brilliant game plan, and he executed it brilliantly.
Yep.
There's going to be a no about this from me later on, so stay tuned to that. But I love the way what people said after the fight when they interviewed him. I am the champ. I want to be treated as the champ for the rematch.
As he should.
And boy, I fucking love what he said there because it's 100% true. He wasn't treated as a champion. Canelo was treated as a champion, even though he wasn't a champion in that weight class, which was a disrespect to the champion.
Yeah.
So Bivol took that personal. And the shit that I hate the most about Canelo is his rematch clause. So if you pay attention to his rematch clause, it usually goes, if I win the fight, there's no rematch. But if I lose the fight, I am allowed to rematch. And I fucking hate that about Canelo because how come you deserve a rematch but they don't, even though it's their title you're taking away if you win? Mm-hmm. How does that fucking...
So if they lose the title, they don't get a rematch?
No, because Canelo, it puts it in the contract to where they can't put a rematch.
I just think that's just treatment to a superstar.
That's just being fucking petty to me. That's why I fucking hate Canelo.
Somebody had to agree to it.
There's just little things well, more than little things, but I just can't stand Canelo for what he does. Obviously, the disrespect for him not being treated as a champion, and I 100% agree because he is the champion, and he came out before Canelo, and Canelo wasn't even the champion. So hopefully, this next match is a location that he chooses with his judges, because these were Canelo judges, with his judges, and in his territory, pretty much wherever he chooses to pick this fight.
Yeah, I think for Bivol, I think his battle with all this is the fact that he knew he wasn't the most marketable fighter in this matchup.
Right.
And then when he beat Canelo, the overriding emotion of, okay, now I need to get my respect. Because look at like in the Wilder Fury situation. Going into those the 3 times they fought, going into all the first 2, everyone was paying attention to Fury or to Wilder because he was the more marketable fighter. He was more well known.
He was loud.
Tyson Fury was the one that was up and down with his health and depression and all that stuff. So when Fury beat him that second time, it was still looked at as Wilder to lose. And I think that Fury looked at that as fuel. So if Bivol is trying to beat Canelo again, I think he needs to look at it that way, as opposed to, well, I need to be looked at the way Canelo gets looked at. Maybe don't focus on that. Utilize that as a positive for you to go into this fight feeling loose and the pressure's still on Canelo, because everyone's still fixated on Canelo being the marketable piece. Does that make sense? Because look what Fury did that third time. He beat the fuck out of Wilder. And I think it's because he embraced that. He embraced the fact that people still weren't picking him to be the guy to beat Wilder, and he did it twice.
The pressure for this rematch is on Canelo. It's not on Bivol.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So Bivol needs to use that.
But I do think that him beating Canelo, he deserves that respect of the champion.
Sure, absolutely.
Being the champion. Let him.
He's the second guy to ever beat Canelo.
Let him stipulate this shit. You know what I mean?
And Canelo hasn't lost a fight in, 11 years?
Yeah.
So,
I don't care if he's a star. I don't care if Canelo's a star. I give 2 shits about
That matters in marketing, though.
It does.
But if you're the champion, get treated as a champion. I give 2 shits if, like I said, I get it, marketing, whatever. But when it's time for the fight, the champion always comes second. Like, let the challenger come out first, and then the champion.
Sure. I get that.
It's just, that's little things like that I fucking hate about Canelo, and I will continue to hate. I fucking despise the man. I despise anything that Canelo has to do with anything.
Eddie's birthday's coming up in August. I'm going to make sure and get him
that's boxing.
Canelo
though.
poster.
That's boxing, though. It's just like the Tiger Woods effect in golf. Like, it's a one-man show kind of sport. You know what I mean? It's one-on-one. So, I mean, anybody who's the big name, it's the benefit of the opponent to face the big name than it is the other way around. So, really, Canelo did him a favor because still a lot of people wouldn't even know who Bivol was. Granted, Bivol won. He is the champ. But Canelo doesn't benefit off this fight nearly as much as Bivol has. I'm just saying that's just how it is in one man sports. Like Tiger Woods, everyone, no matter where Tiger Woods places, if he's in the tournament, it benefits every single golfer in that tournament. You know
because let's be real, how many people outside of like dedicated boxing fans knew who Bivol was?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. I didn't. I'm not even a big.
Just because he fought Canelo, more people.
Now casual fans know who he is now.
And no casual fans will now want to watch this fight as opposed to the first time because they beat him.
And now we know Canelo got exposed for who he is.
He finally lost.
He up a weight class, Eddie. He dominated everybody in his weight class.
He got his ass beat. You take his beating like a man.
Fraud Nello. That's like if Bones Jones went up to Francis Ngannou's weight and loses, he got exposed. I mean, he would have fought a guy that's 250 pounds.
It wasn't like Canelo got knocked out.
You know
they went the
all I know is that if
distance.
Canelo stays in this weight class, it's not going to fit him any single thing. I think this is a class too heavy for him.
I can respect the.
You could be right.
I can respect.
But if he beats Bivol the second time, you're going to have to give him as much respect as you're giving him disrespect.
It's like when Conor McGregor went up.
Disrespected. I don't give a fuck. Win or lose.
I respect Canelo for going up a weight class. That's a challenge.
Exactly.
Just like when Conor went up and fought Diaz.
Okay, what would you prefer, Eddie, as a boxing fan? Would you rather just Canelo just beat a bunch of tin cans that are in his weight class, or go up and give himself a real challenge for the first time in forever?
He can do whatever he wants.
I'm just saying though, like you have to respect the fact the man went up a weight class to fight a guy as worthy as Bivol is,
and lost.
Okay, but the point is,
go back down
he was willing to risk that. You don't think Canelo realized, like, going up a weight class, there's a significant chance he loses for the first time in over a decade?
Apparently not, because wait till my L. But
okay. What's the next question?
All right, next question. Now we got UFC. Was it 274? I believe. I want to get your thoughts on, obviously, fight by fight on all those.
God.
First, we'll talk about the Rose. Namajunas against
Thug Rose,
whatever her name is. I can't remember.
Oh, Esparza.
Yeah.
Look, man, I knew this. I knew that Esparza had the number on Rose. I was still confident that Rose was going to come in here and take care of business because Rose has been on absolute tear, just whooping people's asses left and right. She's in her prime. I'm thinking, okay, this is Rose's time to shine against the woman that gave her the biggest fits, and actually her last loss, if I'm not mistaken. And then Rose and Esparza go out there and shadow box for 5 fucking rounds and have the single worst fight in UFC history, and it's not close. It was so bad that Joe Rogan, Daniel Cormier, and I forget the other guy's name.
Stanley Tucci.
He does like Stanley Tucci. But they were sitting there making jokes about ranking this fight as one of the worst fights ever by round 3. The crowd was obnoxiously booing, and they had every right to. And then Pat Barry, Rose's freaking corner man, her corner coach, is telling her, "You hearing the boos? That means you're doing something right."
And she loses her fucking belt, dude.
No, it means that you're doing the opposite of what's right, Pat.
So crazy.
Chet Congo must have knocked some brain cells loose on Pat Barry for him to give her that horrific advice. That advice was as bad as the fucking performance from Rose.
Terrible. Both of them.
You managed to lose your belt by not even really getting hit at all. I think there was less than 250 total strikes combined in that fight. It was a joke of a performance. Rose deserves all the L's for that one because she walked into that ring, or into that octagon rather, going, "I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best," and then go lose your belt without a scratch on your face. It's
throw 5
embarrassing.
punches. Yeah,
embarrassing, man. That was a terrible performance.
I mean, if we're gonna, I guess we're gonna talk about this one first. There's not much to talk about. I mean, it was about, like you said, a bunch of shadow boxing, a bunch of dancing around, a bunch of. I mean, you could have just played some techno music over that and just watched it like it was like a dance party or something. It was strange. That was not.
Thankfully,
that was.
I didn't watch it. But...
yeah. Not only did we watch it, we paid for it. So yeah,
$75 fucking bucks.
Hey, but I'm not gonna let that spoil the card. The card actually overall was fun. That Michael Chandler.
We'll go.
Oh, okay. I don't have much else to say on the Rose fight. That was,
okay.
Anyone who saw the highlights, if there was any highlights, it was absolute trash.
All right, and let's go to the next fight. Obviously, we heard Cerrone was not going to fight right before the fight.
Oh, yeah.
Your thoughts and reactions to that fight?
That fight ended up being great, and I think either one of those guys that would have fought Cerrone, they would have both ended him in the first round. That fight was incredible, and I love what I saw from the Jamaican man because he absolutely kicked some ass in this fight. Chaos is his nickname, I think. Chaos Williams, if I'm not mistaken. And he whooped that ass in that third. Was that the third round, Trevor? Because he came alive. That first round, it was a pretty even fight.
Well, Randy Brown is the Jamaican guy, the long.
Randy Brown. I'm sorry, Brown is the one that won the fight.
Chaos Williams,
Chaos
the American.
Williams is the one. That, I think was the original fight for Cerrone, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And Brown comes in as the replacement and wins this fight in dominating fashion, and I think put himself on the map.
Man,
because not a lot of people knew who he was before that fight.
He's 15-4.
He went in there and put on a display on a pay-per-view. That's a big thing to do, man, when you're making your first impression.
Yeah, a little bit of John Jones. A little bit of John Jones style.
Now we need to see him face some better opponents to see what he's really worth, but he's already calling out names, man. So I would like to see this guy get more opportunities and more opportunities soon. So I was very impressed by that fight.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the best fights, if not arguably from start to finish, the best fight of the night. Those guys went the distance with each other. They were knocking each other around a lot of different ways, takedowns, jabs, haymakers, spinning elbows, kicks. You got kind of a little bit of everything in that fight. But yeah, I definitely am sold on Randy Brown. I like his length. I like his ability, his confidence. He was a little too arrogant, like he was even mentioning in the first round. He kind of was like too arrogant. Like he was kind of overcompensating of whatever nerves he did have heading into the fight. He was kind of a little too arrogant, but he honed it in and he dominated that fight pretty much from after that first round. That was a fun fight, man. Both those guys definitely were going at it, but I think the length of Randy Brown is what owned that fight. He was able to keep his distance and yet still land a lot of significant strikes.
Now the next fight, we'll talk lightweight bout. Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson. I did see the outcome of this fight. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I picked Ferguson in this fight because I thought he was the better fight going into this one, and Chandler had been out for a while. Chandler was the underdog in this fight. Or no, I think actually he may have been the favorite.
No, he was the underdog.
He was the underdog, okay.
Yeah.
And Ferguson, I think, got a 4 or 5 inch reach advantage, taller fighter. He's been more in a groove lately. It was Ferguson's opportunity to really put himself back into that mix for contention again. And then Chandler put all 5 toes in his mouth and put him to sleep. And that was one of the greatest knockouts I've ever seen in UFC history. That was unbelievable.
From a guy who doesn't have much to his game. He's
and Ferguson is an incredible defensive player. Or fighter. I say fighter.
He wasn't expecting that at all.
He put it right in his freaking throat. He's like, and he was out. Went to sleep. One of the best. I think that's the first straight kick knockout I've seen since Anderson Silva knocked out Belfort. I think it was like 2011.
It wasn't even a straight kick. It was like an uppercut. like you're playing kickball.
Yeah, it was.
It was like a kickball. He kicked up under his chin.
Dustin
it wasn't straight kicks where you kick him
that.
like in their chest.
Dustin Colquitt was giving that one a standing ovation. That dude's punted
it was
his
for
fucking head.
Yeah, it was for the culture,
Put it right
man.
in his lips, dude.
Yeah,
that
Pat
amazing.
McAfee was happy with. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he was like, yeah, it's for the culture, dude. That fight was. It was a good fight overall. Like both those guys were going at it.
Best knockout of the night by far.
Chandler, one of those guys is kind of a straightforward kind of fighter. He likes to throw punches and he likes to get you to the ground and kind of own you because he's extremely strong and extremely fit. The guy is jacked. He's like a muscle. He's just a muscle hamster out there. Tony Ferguson is kind of the all around kind of guy. You know, he's the boogeyman. You know, he's kind of one of those guys that's hard to knock out for one. He always bleeds. He always survives. He's like a zombie out there. No matter what you do to him, he's gonna at least try to go the distance or get you in a some kind of submission or whatever, catch you on a hook. I did not expect that kind of outcome. That was one of the most electrifying knockouts I've ever seen, ever. That kick came out of nowhere. Even Michael Chandler talked about. He said he just saw an opening. That was just like one of those instinctual fights.
Yeah.
Like that's not even like his game. He's not a guy that kicks a lot and outside of maybe kicking your calves and checking your legs and things like that. This is literally like a punt. He punted to his chin. Like that was one of those craziest knockouts I've ever seen, man. Yeah. Oh my. Yeah. Literally, he ages like 50 years with that kick. The impact alone was insane. Out cold. And he was out for like 2 straight minutes. They were like, I was like, is this guy gonna come back? He's literally just laying on the ground,
his
man.
brain hit the ceiling.
So yeah, it was like a cartoon. Yeah. That to me that was not only the knockout of the fight, knockout of the night. There was the only knockout of the night. Yeah, but I mean, as far as the way it ended, it was the fight of the night. It stole the show. It stole the card. Who would have thought Michael Chandler would have stole this card with all these great names on here? So yeah, kudos Michael Chandler. That was an emotional win for him too. Seeing his family up there, seeing him get emotional and get his moment. He's been around for a while, right? He's 23-7, so he's been in the game for a long time. That might have been the moment of his career right there. We might have just saw the greatest moment of his career. Who knows what he does from here? I know he's challenging like Conor McGregor, like literally everyone else was. I think Thug Rose even challenged Conor McGregor. I mean,
I will dance with you, Conor. I will dance with you.
So Conor McGregor's is getting all the shout outs that night, which I loved. I love seeing that. Anytime Conor gets a chance to fight anybody, I'm in. So yeah, I mean, Michael Chandler stole the show, man. Straight up.
All right, let's go to the main event of the night with. Obviously, former champion Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje.
God damn it!
This was the best fight of the night. I know that the Chaos Williams and Brown fight was great all the way through, and Michael Chandler knocked the shit out of Ferguson's brain cells. But to me, this was the best fight because from the very let's get it on. These dudes got it on. I mean, we
knew that was coming.
No punches pulled, man. These dudes were throwing down, and Gaethje was whooping Oliveira's ass for a hot minute. He was putting it on him, dude,
yes.
and he got him to the ground. Like you're thinking, oh shit, Oliveira's he's gonna lose. Like it looked like he was gonna get his ass whooped, like for a split second. And Oliveira, and you know what? What I loved about this fight is it's a testament and honestly a perfect example of Oliveira's career. Because early on, even Gaethje said it in the pre video where he talks about Oliveira used to quit a lot. I'm gonna make him do that again because early in his career, if the fight wasn't going his way, you see Oliveira he'd just cash in. And he'd be done with the fight, and he just didn't show interest anymore. But Oliveira got better, and in his 30s now, he's really put the work in to become a great fighter in the UFC because he always had the talent. It was all about his mentality, and he finally put it together. And this fight was a testament to that because Gaethje, like I said, was whooping his ass. Put him on the ground a couple times. He's rocking him left and right. You're like, oh fuck, dude, Gaethje's gonna win this. I even said, I was like, shit, Trevor, you're probably gonna nail this one as well. And I was gonna have a rough card because my picks were horrible in this one. But he redeemed himself and ended up choking the motherfucker out. To think that somebody can choke out Gaethje...
It's the first time he's ever been submitted.
Ever. No one's ever even come close. Like, even Khabib, as great of a grappler as he is, he couldn't tap Gaethje.
Yeah.
And Oliveira did it, man. I think this is going to catapult Oliveira's career. Gaethje's going to be fine because Gaethje put up a performance. He shouldn't have lost the fight, honestly. But Oliveira capitalized. He saw one little weakness, saw that one little window, and got him. And it was beautiful. I love that fight. I love the way that ended because honestly, that card was rough in some serious spots. Rose was the co-main event. Rose and Esparza was the co-main event, and that fight was dog shit. Yeah. We needed that fight to be the climax and the crescendo, and it was.
Speaking of rematches, I want a rematch of this one, man.
Both
of these guys should have won. Both of these guys did what it took to win this fight.
It was a classic.
And Gaethje, dude, and it was one round. 1 round of fighting.
Didn't it feel like it went 3 rounds?
Yes.
It felt like it went 3 rounds.
It was so great, man. Like,
and it went 3 minutes.
Every second, me and Lance were looking at you like, oh. And it was like a different guy each time. Both these guys, the matchup was so great, man. Both these guys are totally different fighters.
That was a perfect UFC fight.
Yes.
It was the perfect
They're
UFC fight.
2 totally different fighters. Gaethje was just... That just shows you the chin of Oliveira. Both these guys, they both were rocking each other at moments, but Gaethje was because Gaethje is one of the most heavy-handed guys in this league, right? So this guy can throw hands with the best of them. Knockout artist. The guy, he's great on the ground. He's a wrestler background. He's an All-American wrestler. I thought Gaethje had it in the bag, man. He was rocking Oliveira. Oliveira shook. His knees were getting wobbly, and then Gaethje got shook at the last second, and then Oliveira got him to the ground and then got him the chokehold, and it was over, man. It was over. You knew once he locked it. He was about to go to sleep, barely tapped out in time. I really thought Gaethje was going to take this fight. I thought he was going to knock him out. I called the knockout. That's what I wanted. Didn't happen. Oliveira is one of the greats of our time. He's 33-8. The guy's been around for a long time. Gaethje's still. They're both mid-30 guys, so they're both going to have a few more really great fights in their career left. But I really wanted to see Gaethje pull that one out, man. He needed that, but they both needed that, and I would love. I think any UFC fan would love to see a rematch of that. If we can get that sample size of what happened in that first round for maybe 3 rounds, man,
yeah,
that would be a great fight. So I think the UFC needs to do us all a favor and
hold this.
Redo that fight.
Rematch that. Yeah, rematch that L.
All right, man. Next question. All right, we're going into the NBA now. I didn't know how to word this question, but do you think the Grizzlies can perform better without Morant, or do you think that Morant is that boost that the Grizzlies need or needed?
So you guys remember the 2019 season when Kawhi Leonard went to the Raptors, and obviously, Kawhi Leonard was their best player, and he was what got them over the edge and ultimately got them to win the finals. But that season, the Raptors were 17-5 without Kawhi. So people were thinking, oh, are they a better team without Kawhi? No. But are they a capable team without Kawhi? Yes. Now, I know the statistics show that the Grizzlies statistically were better without Ja Morant. But if Ja Morant would have been injured in this series is still going. Because they had a winning record in this series with Ja Morant.
Yeah.
So, although, yes, they are still a very capable team, they obviously got exited because Ja Morant got hurt. And to be honest with you, I think the Grizzlies matched up beautifully with the Warriors so well that I think if that went to a Game 7, I think the Grizzlies win the series. Because they, to me, were the better team in this series. It's just they dealt with more severe injuries. So, to answer your question, no, I think the Grizzlies just showed how good they are as a team without their superstar. Because most teams, when they lose their best player, they crumble. But teams like the Raptors, teams like the Grizzlies, they have those strong foundational pieces around a team that doesn't panic and are coached very well, like Nick Nurse and the coach for the Grizzlies. 2 guys that keep their teams very focused and honed in on the goal. Yeah. I think that's why they continue to win with or without their star player. But make no mistake about it, those teams are better and are championship teams only because they have their star player on top of what they have.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good, well-coached team and a good young roster that's hungry. I mean, they're a good team without Ja Morant, but they're a better team with Ja Morant. I mean, you don't win in this league without a star. You just don't. You do not win there's no team that wins championships or has a chance to win championships if you don't have a star or multiple. Yeah. That's just not how the NBA works. You have to have a star player. And the dynasties that we've seen, the Spurs and things like that, they've had multiple stars for years. You build a nucleus. And I think they have a chance to build a young nucleus there. They got some young players like Bane and guys like that, and Jackson and guys like that are really, really good young players that can be good for a long time and continue to get better. And Ja Morant, only concern I have with Ja Morant is his recklessness, very D Rose type of recklessness to his game, early Russell Westbrook recklessness to his game. A lot of those guys sustained injuries. Luckily, Russell Westbrook found a way to sustain those injuries and overcome them and avoid them moving forward in his career. D Rose didn't have that luxury. Brandon Roy didn't have that luxury. A lot of guys like that just did not have, the ability to overcome certain injuries. And I know D Rose is still in the league, but he's never been who he was before. Right. So guys like that can fizzle out fast. I think Ja Morant has more to his game and can overcome that. And with the sports science we have nowadays, and recovery and things like that for players, he's just got to be careful. But I definitely think John Morant is a star in this league in the making for sure, and they definitely need him more than they don't for sure.
Will this Grizzlies team be back next year?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Now,
this was
to
huge.
Trevor's
they
point,
overachieved
though,
this year, I think. Yeah.
To Trevor's point, though, I do think that there is something to it about. And now, John Morant didn't tear his ACL or have any ligament damage like Derrick Rose did early. He had a bone bruise. It's little things here and there, but he did miss 25 regular season games.
He had the hip injury.
Yeah, he had the hip injury, and then he missed 3 playoff games. So I'm worried about him.
Yeah.
But if he stays healthy, that Grizzlies team could contend for the West. They're that good. And I think that they have the right nucleus in place for at least now. Now, contracts and stuff will change that as time goes on.
Might have one of the better coaches moving forward, too.
And Memphis hasn't been a great destination for free agents, but if John Morant can put together a couple really profound years at an MVP level, then I do think it becomes more of an attractive place. I'm not saying it will become the place, but it become more attractive because he is one of those newly found stars in the league. But his value is in question because, like I said, he missed 25 games this season. I think they had, the second or third seed in the West, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be interesting to see how that team moves forward. But I like their trajectory. I like the way this team is going, and I do think they will 100% be a top 5 to 6 seed in the West next season.
Yeah, just like the Pelicans, I think both those teams have their good young rosters still. I think both those teams, depending on what happens with Zion Williamson, if he's a Pelican, he's probably not going to be. I don't know where he's going to go or if he's even going to be in the NBA anymore. I don't know what's going on with that. He's got to put the burgers down. I don't know, man. I think I like the Pelicans, and I like those two teams that fought to get their way into the postseason this year. I think they both proved a lot. I think the addition for the Pelicans to go get what's his name from the Blazers, McCollum. Yeah, that drew a blank. McCollum was a great addition, good veteran leadership. So I think him being there another offseason and building off that, with Ingram and some other good players there, I think they have something to build on there as well. And I think they're a threat. I mean, they brought it to the Lakers multiple times this year. Granted, the Lakers weren't a great roster, but they play well against good teams. Yeah. They really do. They compete really, really well. And with the Warriors possibly on their way out too, I know we're seeing this is kind of towards the end of the Warriors run. Steph Curry's getting a little older. Draymond, who knows what's going to be. Clay, who knows if they're going to move on from Clay possibly. Who knows what's going to happen with that. There's a lot of things in flux in the West for sure. And I definitely think the Grizzlies could be that young team to kind of rise. I don't really believe that yet. But I do like those two teams. I like the Grizzlies and Timberwolves are still a team in there too. That was a great series between the Grizz and the Timberwolves. So I think the Timberwolves are still a team. I can't really believe in them yet because they don't have a true leader in that team. If we're being honest, I know Karl-Anthony Towns is supposed to be the leader, but to me he just doesn't have it up here to be that guy. I just don't. He's kind of shown that he kind of loses his cool too often to be that leader. I think the future of the West is the Mavericks. That's just me. But yeah, I definitely think the Grizzlies and John Morant have massive star potential to be a team that's going to be in the mix of the 4th and 5th seed every year moving forward for a while. And
we have a comment that said, so James Kirk, imagine moving LeBron over there talking about the Grizzlies.
No.
Well, moving LeBron, period, is franchise suicide. I don't care how old he is. But yes, entertaining the thought of LeBron and John Morant playing together.
I don't like that mix, though.
I would love it because LeBron had tons of success with a player that played at a similar offensive play like Dwayne Wade and John Morant, as slashers, guys that like to get to the bucket and finish at the bucket. That was more of Dwayne Wade's game. He was never a great shooter.
They're very different players in my mind.
No, I'm saying guys that both slash to the bucket. That's what Dwayne Wade was, and that's what John Morant is. So I think that although they have different styles and how they get to the bucket, LeBron had a lot of success with a guy like that. Even Kyrie Irving, who's a great shooter, was a guy that loved to finish at the bucket as well. A great finisher of the bucket, maybe the greatest guard finisher at the bucket ever. So I think guys like that, LeBron, here, let's be real. LeBron has success with everybody. I mean, let's be honest. He's won a championship with every team he's ever played with. Mm-hmm. So there's always going to be different styles and things like that. But I think I have a hard time believing that if LeBron was to go to the Grizzlies today, they wouldn't be one of the 5 favorites to win the title next season. Mm-hmm. So yes, to James's statement, I agree with that. Imagining that would be awesome. But yeah,
any team LeBron goes to, he automatically makes the team better. You can't deny that. He's proven that he's won a championship every single team he's gone to. Like that, you can't really deny that. I don't like the idea of them two. I don't think because Jaw's such a ball dominant guard. You take the ball out of his hands, he might lose his luster a little bit. D Wade was a guy that can come in and play inside of LeBron's system, and he was a very good defender, first player, and he was a great slasher for sure. He was great at that, and he was good at creating the ball, getting buckets on his own. He was a dominant mid-range shooter, very good fadeaway. John Morant's more like I'm spin around you and Euro step over you and make a crazy circus shot.
Yep.
That's Jaw's very reckless. I don't know if that would mesh really well with LeBron, and I think we kind of seen that with Russell Westbrook.
The good thing
not
is,
meshing well with LeBron.
though is that LeBron at this stage of his career has played more off the ball than he ever has. This last season, he played off the ball a lot. Yeah, and it actually was great because he averaged over 30 points a game. He became a scorer.
A good three-point shooter.
Yes, and I think Ja would really utilize that, having a guy like LeBron sitting up on the side waiting for him to dish the ball over and create another play. So I like the fantasy of that one. I'd definitely be on board with that.
All right, let's move on to I'm so interested with what you guys are going to say to this. So is this Luka versus Booker fight going to give us what we want in the future, or is this just a one-time thing?
This is only going to exist, in my opinion, as it currently stands, and from my viewpoint right now, from my vantage point, this is only going to exist as long as Chris Paul's in Phoenix. You know why that is? Because Booker didn't do shit in his career and didn't lead this team to shit before Chris Paul came there. You know who did lead a franchise into the playoffs and was the man for multiple seasons as an underage player, or young player, I should say? Luka Doncic. So this rivalry that's happening right now only exists because Chris Paul has carried Book to this point. Booker's a great scorer. Let's call it what it is. Dude is an awesome scorer. He's a really good basketball player. Top 12, 15 player in this league. But he didn't have success in his career until Chris Paul came around. That's not a knock on him. That's a fact.
As far as team success, yeah.
Luka Doncic,
he's had the numbers.
Luka Doncic has carried a franchise that otherwise hasn't made the playoffs for about 5-6 straight seasons into the playoffs on an annual basis. And now has an opportunity to win in Game 7 in Phoenix to go to the West Conference Finals, and he just turned 23. Book's 25.
And think about Luka's path. He's had to face the Clippers teams with multiple stars.
Yes.
Two of the best wings on the same team. He
dominated them.
Both times he got knocked out by them. I get
right
it.
now, Luka has the highest scoring average in playoff history.
Yep.
Over Michael Jordan, over Kevin Durant, LeBron James, any of them.
Yep.
So what Luka's doing, in my opinion, through the trajectory, if the Mavs just give him one other star, if he was to get a Chris Middleton type player, that team can win the finals. But looking at the Suns right now, and as bad as Chris Paul has played 4 straight games, is it any coincidence to you this is now going Game 7? Why couldn't Book lead them? Why couldn't he get it over the hump? They had home court advantage. Why couldn't they get it over the hump in 6 games? No, it has to go to Game 7 now. And it's going to be really interesting because now, the pressure's on? The Suns. Is Chris Paul going to have a 5th straight bad game? Can Book do enough? Can he match Doncic's production? Nope, because you know what happened in Game 6? Doncic outplayed both him and Chris Paul. Scored more points, more rebounds, and more assists, and more steals, and shot at a higher percentage. Can they outdo Luka by himself? We'll see.
I don't think so. I think the Mavericks take this series, and I had them winning this series from the beginning. What was the question, though?
So this Luka versus Booker fight going...
The rivalry,
Is the rivalry. Is it going to give us what we want in the future, or is this just happening this season in the moment?
It's fun right now, but I think I'm just gonna say I think Luka's the future of this league. I think his success is going to overshadow Booker pretty quickly. I think Luka's already becoming one of the most, love or hate him. A lot of people don't like him because he has that European way about him. He's very animated. I fucking love it. One of my favorite players that growing up was Manu Ginobili. He wasn't as animated, but he was definitely an animated kind of guy that had a different flair about them, right? I love Luka Doncic. I think he's the future of this league. I really do. I believe that. I think he's going to be so good for so long. And I think Booker is going to kind of fall into that shadow. I'm not dissing Booker at all. I think there could be definitely a rivalry for years, but I don't think it's going to matter as much because I think Luka's going to have that much more success as far as success, like accolades and team success. And I think he's a true leader of a team, and we've seen that. I mean, when they got rid of Porzingis, and everyone's like, oh, what are they going to do? They got so much better because Luka just took off. Granted, he missed some games, some injuries, little nagging things here and there. He had some injuries. He was dealing with the injury heading into this series. And he's out here dominating them, coming off a calf sprain and dealing with certain other little nagging injuries. And he's still out here dominating them. They had no answer for him. I think the biggest letdown in this series for the Suns is being DeAndre Ayton. Yeah. DeAndre Ayton should be dominating Kleba and these other guys, Powell. Like these are guys. I mean, these are good role players, But it's DeAndre Ayton, you know. I mean, this is supposed to be one of the premier power forwards in this league. One of the, a big that dominated last year, did really well throughout the postseason, was incredible, putting up good numbers. He just has been extremely underwhelming in this series, and they really, really needed him to be that guy. He has not been that guy against Kleba and Powell. You know, like these are role players, rotational guys that play, you know, traditional big kind of play for the Mavs. Luka's just been too good for them, and I think they finish this series this next game.
All right, last question. Obviously, we saw the Miami Dolphins post a video on Twitter a couple days ago, and obviously Tyreek Hill came out defended this video. So my question is, should we be concerned about Tua and being able to hit Hill in stride?
Yeah, I think you should be, because of the fact that Tua has shown more times than not that he's not a quarterback that is known to be accurate downfield or has the arm strength at the NFL level to put that ball in the places it needs to be for a speedster like Tyreek Hill. The good thing, the advantage that Tyreek brings to Tua is he's also incredible at getting yards after catch. He's incredible at it. You can get him on those little bubble screens, and he can create 20-yard plays.
Block downfield.
Yeah, or even further than that. He did that in the playoffs time and time again for the Chiefs. So Patrick Mahomes didn't always have to put it 25-plus yards in the air to get it to Tyreek Hill. But those profound plays that saved the Chiefs a lot of times in the Super Bowl in particular against the Niners were plays downfield. That Tyreek Hill created that space, and Patrick Mahomes obviously had the missile, the gun to put it there. Mm-hmm. Tua doesn't have that. Now, I watched the video. I know what it is, and I had my laugh about it.
It's a clip.
It's a clip. All these other things, and I know what it is. I understand the context of it. But seeing Tyreek have to come out and defend it tells me one thing: that Tyreek knows what we know. This isn't news to him. I think he knew what he was walking into. Now, will it become more real to him when the season progresses and he's not getting those same, catches and throws that he was accustomed to over the last 4+ years with the Chiefs? Yeah, I think it's gonna be difficult for him to accept that. But I think it's a lot easier for him to accept that when he's making $30 million a year for the next 3 to 4 seasons.
Helps.
That's gonna definitely help in a state tax or a state tax free state that he lives in Miami, where he lives on off season, during the season, wherever. So I think that there's a lot of pluses for this. I know Tyreek's tweeting through it right now, but yeah, this is going to be rough for Tyreek. He's not going to be accustomed to getting 60 catches a season, for 940 yards and 6 touchdowns because Tua can't get him the ball the way Patrick Mahomes is. But you have to expect that when you move from having the greatest quarterback in the NFL to having the 27th.
Right, and Tua is not Patrick Mahomes. We all know that. I think this offense is still going to be fun. I think Tyreek is always going to produce no matter where he's at, because if there's a comparison to Tua, Alex Smith is a fair one, I think, and he had some really big numbers with Alex Smith. Granted, this is not an Andy Reid offense either. Andy Reid is extremely creative about finding ways to get the ball in the playmaker's hands, and there's not a better, more dynamic playmaker other than maybe Deebo Samuels in this league than Tyreek Hill. So I think Tyreek Hill is going to still have good numbers, if not great numbers again this year, because he's that dynamic of a player. Just getting the ball in his hands, like you said, Lance, getting the ball in his hands just on a quick slant, and he's blocked downfield. The dude can make literally anything happen. We've seen it time and time again with the guy. He's incredible with the ball in his hands. He may not be catching the 50-yard touchdowns bombs anymore, because that's just not really into his game. But just getting the ball in his hands, period, he's going to thrive. And I think Tyreek's going to be good, really good this year. I don't expect anything less. He's just so dynamic. I don't think the drop-off is going to be extreme. I really don't. I think he's going to get so much volume in that offense between him and Waddle. Those are the guys in that offense, right? And they're both great at making plays with the ball in their hands. So I think that's going to be. I still think that depending on how that defense is this year, that could be a really good team. They could be a really good team this year, and Tyreek could be the front man for that. Right, so I still think he's going to get his numbers because he's great. Everyone knows he was great before Patrick Mahomes got here. He's great he was even greater when Patrick Mahomes got here. And I think he's going to help Tua a lot in that offense. He's going to make Tua look a lot better than he is, if we're being honest. So underthrowing him, it is what it is. It's a clip. It's going to happen in the regular seasons. Everyone's going to probably freak out about it. But I still think Tyreek's going to get his numbers this year. I really do.
That's it for me.
All right. Thank you for the Eddie. That was good, man. I really appreciate it. We went all across the board.
Yeah.
We have, I think it's I think there's one more thing, guys, we have to do. What's it called?
Hold this L.
Each and every week, we finish each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports, whether they're friendly or not friendly L's in the world of sports. We promise you, who is ever holding those L's in the world of sports, deserve those L's in the world of sports. Mr. Yo Eddie Ortiz, who's holding the L for you this week and is in F1.
That's not F1. It is not.
It's fucking bullshit.
Mm-hmm. They were in Miami this past weekend, so we were just talking about Miami. But I'm gonna give it to Canelo.
What? I didn't see that coming.
Oh man. Why am I gonna give it to Canelo?
He's gonna take another victory lap.
Yeah.
Look at this guy.
Why am I gonna give it to Canelo? Not because he lost the fight. Obviously, we already know he already took that L. But I'm gonna give him L for what he said and what he keeps on saying.
What'd he say?
Canelo Alvarez feels he should have gotten the nod, meaning the victory, saying Dimitri Bivol won no more than 4 to 5 rounds. Everybody who saw the fight, we saw a completely different fight. Obviously, the ass whooping that Bivol was giving Canelo affected his brain cells because how in the fuck he saw a victory in that fight, I have no clue. Obviously, the judges had Canelo won convincingly the last round in this fight. I think this would have ended in a draw, being honest. And no way had Canelo won. This would have been another Triple G controversy kind of thing, where where Triple G dominated the entire fight, and then they gave it to Canelo. They gave it a tie at the end because Canelo won the last round. And it was a tie. So this could have went that same direction had Canelo dominated that last round, which obviously everybody who watches boxing, who knows boxing, knows that would have been bullshit. But for Canelo to come out and openly speak out about it, that saying he won the fight, that he was upset that the judges gave the victory to Bivol. Apparently he doesn't know the shit about boxing because, there's no way. Even if you're a Canelo fight, you can't even defend those words. Because we all know he lost that fight. 10 rounds in, you already knew Canelo had to miraculously win the last 2 rounds to even have a shot at winning this fight. But
he didn't win those last 2 rounds.
It was just no, yeah. So I don't know where Canelo is seeing that Bivol only won 4 to 5 rounds and that he won the rest. I've literally watched the highlights, the replay. There's just no way for me to convince myself to say, well, I mean, maybe he won the fight. Maybe he was misjudged on this round. No, he was dominated the entire fight. He was dominated.
And that's when you took off the Canelo hater glasses. You still saw the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still saw the same thing. Bivol had Canelo on the ropes the entire night. There was not one round where Canelo wasn't on the ropes. And obviously we all know Canelo is usually who has the people in the ropes.
Yeah.
So for me, for that reason, for Canelo seeing the fucking victory somehow, I'm sure he's still kind of fucked up in the head from that fight, but for that reason, Canelo, you're going to have to do me a favor and
hold this L. I'm sure it's hard for him to admit a loss when he hasn't lost in a decade. So it's been since LeBron got to his first. It's been since LeBron got to his first finals with the Heat since the last time he lost. So it's been a while. All right, Trevor Turtle, who's holding the L for you this week?
All right, so we all heard the news about Tom Brady's $375 million broadcasting deal that's placed for him once he's done and retired. That seems to have stirred the pot amongst a lot of talking heads in the sports world, sports realm. A lot of people are upset about it. One of the ones that caught my eye was a guy I used to watch a lot. It was Dan Le Batard. I used to watch a lot of Dan Le Batard. I liked him a lot. I liked his show. But he seemed to be a little heated about the whole situation. I don't know if you guys... Let me go ahead and read the quote that he actually came out about. Spoke out about, let me say. Starts with, I want the audience to understand how absurd it is for anyone to get $375 million for someone that no one has any proof. Tom Brady isn't fun or interesting in front of a microphone. They just gave $375 million to somebody who's never said anything interesting. The former ESPN personality marveled on Wednesday's episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugatz. It's not like Tom Brady's agent just went to one person with this. He got it up to $375 million. This is my favorite part. Because money is being spilled all over the place with people in broadcasting fighting over all the white legends. That's corny as fuck, dude. I'm sorry. First of all, you're a white broad. Honestly, Dan Le Batard's been in the game for a long time. And you're going to talk about people are marveling over the white legends? Listen, this is considered to everyone, damn near everyone, casual, non-casual, most talking heads in the realm of talking sports, considers Tom Brady the greatest of all time. Not just quarterback, the greatest football player of all time. The most notable name in football history. Tell me right now, if Michael Jordan got a deal to do broadcasting, to call games, to speak during games, how much money do you think Michael Jordan's getting? It's pretty similar, if not more. Yeah. It's Michael fucking Jordan. Is he white? Why are we making this into a race thing? This is what I get it. The Tony Romo thing. He's paid handsomely, not nearly as much as Tom Brady's getting. But Tony Romo's fucking incredible what he does. He's proven himself. And I'm not going to sit here and speculate the ratio of races, the people that try to get into broadcasting. It is primarily a lot of white guys to do this job. A lot of athletes are black. A lot of athletes are Hispanic. A lot of athletes in different parts of the world. Overall, across the world, it's fairly distributed as far as what race plays what sport, who's good at what sport, predominantly. It is what it is. In this sport of broadcasting, it tends to be a white thing. It just is. Why do we got to make this everything into a race thing? It's so frustrating. Granted, we know that there is a disparity in coaching. That is a massive problem in sports in general, specifically in the NBA. Well, not necessarily the NBA, more in the NFL than any other sport probably, because there's been far more controversy and people speaking out about it. That is true. That is one thing. We can have that conversation. We've had that conversation on the show numerous times, and it's been spoken about in the sports world numerous times. This is Tom Brady. Why does it matter what race the guy is? You don't think Tom Brady is considered the greatest of all time amongst the sports world and football? He's going to get paid in a ridiculous amount for him to sit down and talk in front of a microphone during football games. How much money do you think Peyton Manning got paid to do the ESPN thing? A lot of money. Granted, he's not Tom Brady, though. It's Peyton Manning. He's very entertaining, and it is what it is. But Tom Brady is currently still playing, and he's currently admired as the greatest of all time. Like I said, the comparison from him to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is considered the greatest of all time in the NBA, amongst the majority of people, probably, I would say. I can't even imagine if Michael Jordan was testing the waters and seeing how much who would pay him what to do broadcasting during games and call games. The money, the numbers would be probably insane, maybe even more than what Tom Brady's getting. So, I just think, and the fact that all these people over their careers have glossed and glamored over Tom Brady and worshipped this guy for years. Now they want to make this a race thing because he's getting paid a lot of money to talk during games. What did you think was going to happen if Tom Brady was deciding to come into broadcasting? The money's going to be insane. Just for people to want to go and listen to Tom Brady talk during games alone, his name alone. I mean, his name, just with or without sports, but like we talked about. Remember when Tom Brady was leaving the Patriots and we were speculating on where he was going to go? Just the namesake of Tom Brady being the quarterback for any one of these teams, whether it was the Dolphins, the Buccaneers, whatever, it was going to put asses in the seats. It was going to bring that much revenue to that franchise. Just for the power of the name Tom Brady and his brand and the TB12 and all this stuff. And who he would bring with him, who he would attract other players-wise. You don't think Tom Brady being on whichever, on ESPN or whichever platform, Fox Sports, how much more traction and ears and eyeballs that's going to bring to whatever game he's calling? It's well worth every dollar they're going to spend. Yep. Whether you like Tom Brady or not.
They're going to make that within probably his first broadcast.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to talk about how they're worshiping the white legends. What are we doing, man?
I think
such a corny thing.
I don't want to speak for Le Batard because I do believe Le Batard is one of those guys that doesn't use hot takes to get attention.
Right.
But I do think that he is.
That's why I was surprised.
He was an opportunist in this particular situation because he's the one guy that actually found the negative in this. Not to take away from what you're trying to say.
No. Yeah, that's why I was more surprised by this.
When I heard this news, I was actually on the complete opposite of where Lebitard's at on this because of the fact that I actually do find Tom Brady interesting.
Yes.
In fact,
he's actually a funny dude.
I think Tom Brady's going to do an incredible job because he's smart. He's charismatic.
Right.
He has great personality. The reason why we can him in this whole he's never said anything interesting
That's dishonest.
is because for 19 years he had to be that way.
Right.
Because that's how Bill Belichick ran his ship.
Exactly,
and
bro.
the moment he got out of that umbrella, what did Tom Brady start doing? He did that funny little thing with Gronkowski when their feet are in the little pool and they're doing like funny little sayings to each other, like how do we talk to each other and all those other cool things.
And the irony in the Bill Belichick thing you just brought up, what did everyone love about Bill Belichick? We overglorified how uninteresting he was.
Yeah.
We made that a sexy thing. We all thought it was so funny how
Everything's
Belichick
by the book. And get your lunch pail and
onto
go
the
into
Bengals,
work. Yeah.
onto the Bengals,
Yeah.
onto the
We're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah. So it's like you can't have both. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So that's why I felt this was such a dishonest take from Dan Lebitard, a guy I love and respect and have loved his show. And it's had one of the longest lasting shows on ESPN history.
He made a ton of money off DraftKings, wasn't it? Was it DraftKings or whatever he does work for
Oh yeah,
now?
he's a great gambler. Him and Stu Goss both are great at
He made
gambling.
like $50 million off that.
Yeah, I actually
deal.
listen to them a lot for those reasons, and I loved the delivery, the unique delivery they have on their show. Like I've always liked the camaraderie.
I've always had a problem listening to millionaires talk about millionaires. You know what I mean? Like Lebitard is a millionaire himself, and he's earned every bit of it. So is Tom Brady.
It struck a nerve for me because I just felt that was extremely dishonest to try to like downplay. Granted, feel how you want to feel about Tom Brady as a person, as a player, whatever. I don't think he's the greatest of all time. That's a different discussion. I do think he's a funny guy. I do think he has a lot to offer when it comes to this. Obviously, he's going to have a lot to say, just like Tony Romo. Those kind of guys are knowledgeable, and they're going to be. I think he's going to be great. Like you said, I think he's going to be great at it.
And is Tom Brady not the most polarizing figure in the NFL?
Exactly. The money's going to be there.
And like you said about Michael Jordan, that's a perfect example. That's a perfect
and he's
example.
a black man, so this is why I had a problem with the race thing.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like put Tom Brady's name and Lebitard or whatever.
Dan Lebitard,
next to each other and ask anybody around. Go to different countries.
Yeah.
Go to different countries and say, what name do you recognize?
I mean, at 44 years old, Tom Brady had the #1 selling jersey in the NFL.
That's like if
led the league in passing, and here I am defending Tom Brady. That's how bad this take is.
It's like if Messi got they're working on a contract for Messi to start being on the broadcast board of calling games. Could you imagine the numbers?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Hey, he's white though. He's kind of white, right? So I mean, it's just like I thought it was so dishonest to use the race thing with Tom Brady. Is so weird. Like this is one of the biggest names in sports.
It's
world
based on
ever.
market, right? It's based on market, correct?
Silly,
okay.
man.
Well, then I have a counter to that real quick, and then obviously we can move on because I know this is your L. I'm not trying to take over.
No.
He's taking over.
Who got the highest or the biggest contract in NFL history as a player?
Patrick Mahomes. Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's a little silly, dude. That's why I felt that was so disingenuous.
I'm just saying.
And dishonest. I felt that, especially if a guy of his caliber, Dan Lebitard, who's been in the game for so long.
Who's the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL ever? I mean, I don't want to make this into this because you guys know how progressive I am about stuff.
That's what I'm saying. It's a rabbit hole.
We've made entire episodes about this shit.
That's why it's such a ridiculous statement when he came out and said that. And we're glorifying the white legends. Like,
Right.
what are you talking about?
That's a horrific take.
One, it's
Tom Brady got this contract because of him being the most successful
It's Tom Brady.
individual player in the history of the NFL.
So would the
Best believe I'm
polarizing.
watching his first broadcast.
Yeah, so I mean, would the NBA be worshiping their black legends because Michael Jordan got a big deal to call games? Like, what are we doing here, man?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's such a deep rabbit hole to go
Shaq
down.
and Charles, man, they both make over $10
Exactly.
million a year.
And that's the best.
And that's NBA. That doesn't even compare to the NFL. when it
That
comes to
call
marketing.
games.
That crew in the NBA, the TNT night crew, calling the game. That's the
By
best.
far the
That's
best.
the best crew in sports.
But they cover a league and a
Right.
sport that isn't nearly as possible in America than football.
Right.
So obviously the market and demand and the polarizing figure that Tom Brady is mixed in with that is going to elevate his demand.
Yeah.
And I honestly, hats off to him. Because the man just got more money on this contract than he made in his NFL career to this point.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to having Tom
I think
Brady.
he's gonna be great at
having
it.
Tom Brady doing that, and then having Peyton Manning doing the ESPN thing, which might
what
grow
I'm
even
saying.
bigger.
You still have Tony Romo in there, bro.
Bro,
That's what I'm saying.
it's
man.
done nothing
Still
but
have
good
Chris
for this.
Collinsworth, who's incredible at his job too.
Yeah. So
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's.
And then you have Troy Aikman and Joe Buck for whatever reason.
that's a whole other L.
Continue.
Yeah,
It's
so
9-6.
So I just want to thank Dan Lebitard, who I do love and respect and have always liked a lot.
It's a bad take.
I'm gonna thank him for putting his foot in his own mouth because that was a terrible take, disingenuous and very dishonest. Dan Lebitard, do me a solid here, man, and hold this L.
I have a W and an L. The W I want to get is to a person and a player that I have immense respect for now because of what he just came out and did this week. The Players Tribune decided to run an article from Tariq Cohen, the running back for the Chicago Bears. And I'm not gonna give you guys excerpts or anything like that of this article because I don't want to take away from this article. But I will tell you what it's about. So Tariq Cohen on May 10th dropped an article through the Players Tribune regarding, it's basically a reflection piece while also speaking to his young self, his 17-year-old self, Tariq Cohen. And it goes into great detail, guys, about the haunting experiences that Tariq Cohen had as a young man, and he's giving himself advice from about 8-9 years later. And I'm going to be honest with you, this piece broke my heart, man, because Tariq Cohen has gone through things that I have never and never will go through as a human being. Talks about his relationship with his mother. Talks about losing his brother and how he wanted to go out and get revenge. And again, I'm not going to tell you guys what this article said because I don't want to take away from it. I highly recommend, if you guys are listening to my voice right now or watching this video, go right now online, go to the Players Tribune, type in Tariq Cohen, TARIKCOHEN. And I'm telling you right now, you will not have there will not be a dry eye in the room if you say this out loud, if you read this verbatim out loud. It's one of the most touching experiences I've ever had. The reason I'm giving a W to Tariq is not just because of the obvious, that he's a man that's learned from his past. He's a man that has gotten himself through all these hardships and tragedies that he experienced at such a young age. But it's the fact that he spoke about it. For a man to speak about stuff like this, and trust me when I say this is some really hard shit to read, let alone voice, for him to be able to articulate it and have it out there and to be vulnerable with the world is something that is so commendable and so respectable. And I could not respect Tariq Cohen as a man and as an athlete more than I do right this second. And I would have been remiss if I did not mention this on our show this week, the week that it came out. So I want to commend Tariq Cohen for being vulnerable, for speaking about the shit that none of us really knew about, and you will see this man in a much different light. Not that he was ever a controversial figure whatsoever. Everyone likes Tariq Cohen. He's a really fun, electric player. But to now know this about him, it's hard not to love the guy. So I just wanted to give that to Tariq Cohen. On the flip side, a man that we just mentioned and we all love here, Charles Barkley had some really strange criticisms about Joel Embiid this week. So Game 5, in case you guys didn't know, the Heat did beat the Sixers in 6 games. There's a lot of reasons why. Doc Rivers had a really rough series. James Harden was atrocious. Over me? Yeah, Jimmy Butler and those guys went ham, man. They did their thing, and I predicted the Sixers are going to lose the series in 6, primarily for the reason that I'm about to address. So Joel Embiid, if you guys did not know, all season long has been battling injuries. And in this series alone, he suffered 2 injuries. And they both had to do with his head area. He broke his orbital bone, and he had a concussion on one play. And it was an elbow that I think he got from Bam Adebayo, if I'm not mistaken, in Game 4. Well, in Game 5, that was Game 2. And in Game 5, when Joel Embiid was really trying to work his way back into becoming the superstar that he is, he had a pretty rough performance. If I'm not mistaken, he only had about 17 points. I think he had only 5 rebounds and 2 assists. He didn't have a great game. He shot 58% from the field, but he only took 7 shots. And he just wasn't effective. He wasn't great in this game. Well, Charles Barkley had some really harsh criticisms to say about him, and I'm actually going to let you guys hear it yourselves so you can hear Charles say it himself, because only Charles can articulate things the way that he does.
Joel Embiid is so distracted, in my opinion, about his MVP thing. He's not there tonight. He got 6 points, but he's not being aggressive. He's throwing the ball away. I'm like, and I wonder on that team who's gonna say, yo man, you the MVP. We knew you're the MVP. Now go ahead and prove it. But Ernie, when you are mad about something, it can work both ways. And it's working the wrong way for Joel Embiid tonight. He is so distracted. And like I say, Derek Smith, Rick Mahorn, and Dan Martin, they told me, man, dude, you playing like crap. Get your head out your ass and play better. And somebody got to say that.
Okay, so obviously that was at the halftime of this game. Joel only had 6 points, ended up with 17, so he ended up scoring more in the second half than he did in the first half. So he tried his best to play as good as he could, but dealing with 2 significant head injuries while playing a tough team like the Heat on the road, I can understand why one would have that performance, but see, Chuck wanted to take it into another matter. He wanted to say that it was that Joel Embiid was distracted by the fact that Jokic actually beat him out for the MVP this season. Now, I do believe Joel Embiid was upset about that because Joel Embiid, in my opinion, was more of a valuable player this year than Jokic was, even though Jokic was insanely good this season. I still have no idea what the fuck we base the MVP off of, but if I had a vote, I would have voted Joel Embiid over Jokic for sure. But it's really weird to me that Charles puts himself in these positions as if he didn't have very similar issues. Like when he always talks about Kevin Durant. Like I'm in agreement. Like Kevin Durant was a snake for what he did by leaving OKC to go to the team he couldn't beat, right? But Charles talks about KD in a light as if he didn't do the exact same things. And it's really weird that Charles takes these kind of platforms. And what I mean by that and how it coincides with this situation is the fact that Charles Barkley had very similar performances in the playoffs as well in seasons he may have or should have won MVP and didn't. And in fact, did it a lot more than Joel Embiid did. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and break this down. In Barkley's career, in his playoff career, he had 27 games in which he scored 17 points or less. He had 3 games which he had 5 rebounds or less, 35 games in which he had 2 assists or less, and 79 games in which he shot less than 58% from the field, which is what Joel Embiid shot in Game 5. So as bad as Joel was in this game to his own standards, it's odd that Charles takes this high point or thumbs his nose at Joel's performance, given knowing what injuries he's trying to overcome. And Charles couldn't do this in a large majority of his games that he played in the playoffs as a healthy player. So what is what's his excuse? If Joel Embiid has legitimate excuses due to his own health, I would be interested to know what Charles would have to say for his own lackluster performances and doing that at a much higher clip. Because again, Joel Embiid, for him to play this bad, it stood out because he doesn't usually play that bad in playoff games. And if he'd have been healthy, I would have understood the criticism from Charles, and then you can theorize that it has to do with the MVP or him not winning the MVP as to why Joel didn't play that well. But because of the fact that there are 2 glaring issues, not to mention the fact, I didn't even mention it myself, Joel Embiid also had a thumb ligament issue. He had a torn ligament in his shooting thumb. So he's taken on all 3 of these measures with an underperforming James Harden as supposed to be his second superstar player. Therese Maxey is trying to become that guy, but he's not there yet. He's still a young player. Tobias Harris is not playing at the level he should be playing, with at least the contract he's got. And then you have guys like Danny Green, who's shooting well, but then ends up tearing his ACL later in the series. It's insurmountable for Joel Embiid to overcome, and I think it's extremely unfair for Charles Barkley to put his foot in his mouth once again and try to make a comparison or try to make a criticism for Joel Embiid, who's doing literally all that he can to survive and advance in this series, and I think that was really unfair for him to do that to Joel Embiid. So for that, my guy Chuck, who I love and I adore, and I think he's great at what he does, you're going to have to do me a solid and hold this L. We appreciate that. We actually have... I lied. I said we had one more order of business to tend to. We actually have a voice message from our guy Stan Simmons. Oh. I just saw it right now, and I wanted to make sure that we give our guy Stan Simmons his platform. He only dropped it a couple of hours ago. And Stan, here is your time, my brother.
Hey guys, what's up? I enjoy listening to you guys every Saturday on your YouTube channel. I'm glad I found your YouTube channel about a month or 2 ago. Anyway, I want to ask you your honest opinion about Tyreek Hill. Listen, for me, I'll miss the guy not only as a Chiefs player, but a member of that community. I wish him the best in Miami. However, I can't shake the feeling the way he left was a little unsavory. I mean, how many times did we see the slander in every comment section? I know I defended him and his character many times. Tyree probably didn't need us to do that for him, but out of love for our community, which includes the Chiefs, we did it anyway. All that just see him leave for a few dollars more seems like a waste. I just get the feeling of being numb to him, and I really don't want to discuss his past and futures anymore. It would have made more sense if the Chiefs were a losing team in the organization, but to leave and go to a suspect team organization, to me, I feel numb and slightly betrayed. What do you guys feel?
Well, first of all, Stan, as always, man, we appreciate the voice message you drop us, and we appreciate you finding our YouTube channel and subscribing. We hope that everybody does that as well. And if you ever want to leave us a voice message, go to our Anchor app and do that, or you can just hit us up in the comment thread on YouTube. But to answer your question as honestly as I can, Stan, I completely understand where you're coming from, because that's where I was when this initially took place. I was more so upset with the Chiefs because I felt like they didn't do enough to keep Tyreek Hill, or they weren't willing to pay him enough. And in my eyes, especially at that time, I felt that they should have done whatever it took to keep such a prolific star like Tyreek Hill, who's very much still in the prime of his career. But on the flip side of this, I get from the fan perspective that it's difficult to understand why a player would take just a few million more to go play for a much worse franchise with a much worse quarterback. But it's always hard for me, and I always make this rule for myself. I don't tell a man what he feels he's worth. And if Tyreek feels that he's worth $30 million, while also simultaneously a franchise out there is willing to pay him what he feels he's worth, I'm never going to tell him to not go after what he feels he's worth, or what another team thinks he's worth as well, especially when it's the same number. And there was a team out there in the Miami Dolphins that saw fit to pay him that money, whereas the Chiefs didn't. And I respect it, and I think that although it sucks, and trust me when I say it does suck, it's going to take an adjustment for the Chiefs to get over the Tyreek Hill era, or the loss of Tyreek Hill. I'm not as worried about it, and I don't want to speak for you, Stan, but I think when you see this offense be fluid and they are effective and this team's still winning games, I think it's going to be a lot easier for you as well. And I'm speaking for myself because, again, I've been in that same boat as you are. And I want to get Trevor's thoughts on this as well. Stan Simmons had a question on our Anchor app. He was basically he was saying that he feels a little betrayed by Tyreek Hill taking a few million more to go to a much more suspect team instead of staying here in Kansas City and winning. And he wanted to get our thoughts on that as well. And I said basically I think the winning's going to cure all. And I think that once we see this team continue to win and be successful after Tyreek, without him, I think that it's going to be a lot easier for us to digest that. And he wanted to just get our takeaways on the whole situation.
Yeah, I think as a fan, you have every right to feel offended because we're fans of the players. You know what I mean? But there's two sides of the story. I mean, the player wanted to be closer to home. The player wanted more money. The teammate didn't want to pay him that much money because the teammate had the most highest paid quarterback in the league and the future of this league, let alone this team. So there was decisions that needed to be made, and this is a business. But decisions need to be made from the player as well. He could have taken slightly less money to stay here and be a part of a better winning opportunity, but he didn't want to do that. He put Tyreek Hill first. And listen, man, Tyreek Hill worked for everything he's got. He started far behind the line, in this race. He not only did he start far behind, he had to develop into the player that he is today. He was never this player in college. He was never this polished of a receiver that he is now. No one expected Tyreek Hill to become what he was when from where he got drafted in that day, and maybe only him, saw that potential in him to another. Maybe I don't even think Coach Reed and these guys thought he would be what he became, an all-time weapon in the NFL. So listen, I think I respect any fan that wants to feel offended by it. I really do. I think you have that right as a fan to be offended by a player that chooses something else over you. They broke up with us. You know what I mean? We have relationships with these players. We build bonds with these players. We won the ultimate goal with Tyreek Hill, and he was a massive part of that. That got us the all-time goal. And any player you win with like that, it's near and dear to your heart. And when that breakup happens, it hurts more than any other. That having that success and building that bond, it hurts after the separation takes place. So I get it. I get Stan. I felt that initially too. I'm sure, Lance, you felt that initially too. When that news broke, we were extremely upset, and not only at Tyreek, but at the Chiefs not paying him at the time we thought we could have paid him. But the more the dust has settled, the more, and like you said, winning, if we take off in this draft class, Sky Moore, what was the other kid's name, Justin Ross, if he becomes a player here, if Juju is a magical fit in this offense and we don't miss a step, maybe we take a step forward in a different way, all those feelings definitely go away. You know what I mean? So it does suck, and it's going to suck. It really is, and it's going to be sentimental for me. It's going to be emotional for me as a fan, not seeing 10 on that field, not seeing that jersey with Hill on the back of it, making plays for the Chiefs. It's just going to be a weird thing. I think every Chiefs fan is going to feel that. This might be the most heartbreaking move that has happened in Chiefs history, as far as the dynamic of what Tyreek Hill was to this team, and winning a championship together. So I get all of it. I think anybody's feelings in the matter are warranted for the most part. Granted, if you're like hating on him for something, that's silly. I mean, he made his decision as a grown man. We should respect that as well. So as a fan, it sucks.
Yeah,
it does suck, and I expect the fans to be upset about it. But it is what it is, man. I think we're going to go on, and we got bigger goals in mind. He wanted the money, he got it. Hey, the kid made it, man. That's a success story in life, and I'm all for success stories. Not only is he champion, now he's the highest paid receiver all time, at least for now, until somebody else breaks the market. But I mean, that is a massive American success story, Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
From what he's come through and what he's gone through, and now he's here. He's in Miami. He's closer to home. He's the highest paid dude in the league. Like, it's an incredible story. I'm happy for the individual. It sucks as a Chiefs fan to lose that talent, but I think we will win a lot of games moving forward. We have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. A lot of wins are on the horizon, and that's something to look forward to. But I think Stan's stance is warranted for sure.
Yeah.
All I gotta say is players do come and go. So I do get it that fans get attached to players.
Yeah.
Yep. Especially when you win rings.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, this is a business for the Chiefs. This is a business for Tyreek Hill. It's the sport they play, or it's the sport he plays. But at the end of the day, it's what's best for him and his family. And I can't blame him for taking more money.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's gonna set his family well off into the future. So. Kudos to him.
Yeah, and again, just to reiterate, Stan, on the business side of this, when you feel that betrayal, remember also, man, that on the flip side of that, when a team also sees that a player is no longer fit, they're going to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. And if Tyreek was to start losing a step, if he was to be as less effective in this offense, and he was still, the market still shows he needs to be making over $20 million a year, the Chiefs would part ways with him just like they just did, where they didn't agree to pay him. So even on this current situation, the betrayal, if you really want to push it towards that avenue where it's betrayal, as a fan, you should look more towards the Chiefs, because they were the ones that didn't value the player that we love so much and that we feel is still as valuable as he is. So if you really want to be angry at somebody, and again, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you do want to be angry about something or gear your anger towards somebody, it should be towards the Chiefs.
Well, and
because they're the ones that made the bet that says we're not paying him and we're going to be fine without him.
And we just got the biggest haul in draft picks for one player, I think. As far as a skilled player like that, I mean, one of the biggest hauls ever. And
Herschel Walker was the biggest.
Of course, that one is just never going to be matched. But we could go from saying fuck you to thank you really, really quickly, depending how this draft class plays out. Right? So not to say we're going to forget about Tyreek Hill, because he's forever embedded in the lore and legend of the Kansas City Chiefs franchise. But we can definitely go from saying fuck you to thank you really quickly, depending how this class plays out.
Stan, we always appreciate, man, when you drop a line our way, man. So keep doing it. We always appreciate it. We appreciate all the support you give us, man. It means a lot. All the way out there from the Bay Area, man. You're the best, dude. So, and for all of you guys, thank you guys so much. We've been getting a lot of comments, a lot of subscribers on YouTube. People have been hitting me up saying, "Hey, man, I've been watching on YouTube Live." That is what we want you guys to do, man. If you're gonna support us, definitely support us on YouTube, man. We also, like I said, you guys can hit us up on our Anchor app as well. We got support there, but our YouTube app is really what we're gearing our attention to, and we're trying to grow there as much as we can. But you guys are great, man. The group on Facebook has grown exponentially. The growth is out there. The comments are up. The posts are up. The memberships are up. You guys are killing it, man. And honestly, like, we don't have an off season here at the Spoken Podcast, but if there was an off season, this would be it. In the middle of the summertime, where baseball's in full swing, the NBA playoffs are starting to really get towards the end. There's no football, and I know a lot of you guys are football fans, so we have to continue to create content here. And these are the tough times. This is the dog days for us.
There's always things to talk about.
There's always things to talk about. We don't have games to break down. We don't have games to predict. We don't have that luxury right now. So this is the downtime of the year for us, and for the growth to be there, man. We're growing more and more without that. It's a great sign, man. It's all credit to you guys. We want to thank you guys for letting this happen, and we have a lot of support here, and Shaggy and Clay Windler and guys like that are the reason why that continues as well, and we really do appreciate all that you guys do. So for Trevor Twidwell, for Eddie Ortiz, for the great Clay Windler, for Shaggy Shane Williams to jump in and do what he did today, we always appreciate him. I am Lance Twidwell. Episode 167 of the Spoken Podcast is unfinished and finito, and until we're here for 168 next week, we out of this bitch.